How did it all come crashing down for Wales so suddenly? In his first tenure in charge, Warren Gatland built a dynasty, taking young guns and turning them into giants, not just for Wales, but for the Lions as well. 4 Six Nations titles, 3 of them Grand Slams, and in 2019, a world #1 ranking. But then, a record drop-off, golden generation all but gone, a first wooden spoon for 21 years and 14 losses on the bounce. Why? Perhaps the main reason was poor spending. During Gatland's first tenure, the WRU committed its funds to world-leading training facilities for the national side, but underinvested in the club scene. Despite Ireland raking in similar overall revenues, its union would be committing up to £30 million a year more than Wales to their provincial clubs. In 2023, a report found the WRU had flitted away an £84 million TV deal on the purchase of a Cardiff hotel and a zip wire above the Principality. At the same time, the regional budgets and salary caps were being slashed, and they're still being cut. Add this to a distinct lack of player pathways when compared to the private school-fueled setups in Ireland, Scotland and England, the continuous rise of football's popularity and generational talents going elsewhere. It all meant when Abby Tierney became CEO, having never worked in sport before, she had a mountain to climb. And yet the beauty of sport, of course, is it isn't played in the boardroom, and sometimes it takes surprisingly little for the narrative to shift almost overnight. When Gatland left for the second time, interim coach Matt Sherratt only had 3 training sessions before Wales' next game, but the team looked unrecognisable, and all he did was pick players in the right positions and provide a bit of attacking structure. Suddenly, Wales were back pushing Ireland to the wire. As Gatland's first tenure taught us, for Wales' success to be sustainable, once the books are balanced, the regions need more money, salary caps need boosting, player pathways need investment. But it doesn't have to mean Wales lose every game in the meantime.
Good morning, you are listening to Alex Crook and Scott Minto on talkSPORT. So, as Benjamin Šeško chooses Manchester United, what next for Newcastle? Would their fans be happy with signing Nicholas Jackson from Chelsea? Meanwhile, is Jack Grealish being priced out of a move to leave Manchester City? How do Chelsea plan to sell even more players? And could former Crystal Palace owner John Textor be the man to save Sheffield Wednesday? Plus, we'll look ahead to the start of the Championship season, which begins tomorrow night on talkSPORT. This is Alex Crook and Scott Minto.
100% engagement. Jim White and Simon Jordan on talkSPORT.
Yeah, very good morning, Scott, the birthday boy for yesterday. How you feeling?
Mate.
A year older?
Yeah, I actually feel really good. It was birthday yesterday. Was on doing a bit with Charlton TV, so I was with Alan Kirbishley and Stevie Brown and Kev Lisby as well. A few little pints afterwards, and then went for a birthday meal after that. So it was nice. And it's your birthday tomorrow, I believe.
It is my birthday tomorrow. You're off to Brighton Races this afternoon for a pre-birthday bash, and then I'm going for a roast dinner tomorrow night.
Very nice. Well, I'm 54. 50, what are you?
Still 42 for another day, mate.
No way. That was a tough paper round, that, wasn't it?
Let's bring you the big breaking news. You heard it in the news bulletin there. Darwin Nunez and Al Hilal. He is travelling for a medical. A deal has been agreed between the two clubs. We understand it's €53 million, so around about £46 million, plus bonuses. Liverpool paid €75 million guaranteed with bonuses when Nunez joined them from Benfica, Scott's old club in Portugal. He was close to leaving in January, having pushed for the club to act upon serious and significant interest from the Saudi Pro League. Liverpool held firm, rejected that approach, prioritising their Premier League winning campaign, but he has now got that move to Saudi Arabia. Scott, two questions really. Is this good business for Liverpool, and should Darwin Nunez act as a bit of a warning sign for Arsenal fans getting excited about Victor Gyökeres, because he scored a lot of goals in Portugal but wasn't really able to translate it in the Premier League?
Yeah, and I watched him almost on a game-by-game basis for a season, and he absolutely bossed it in Portugal. And I did think he would score more goals in the Premier League. Look, I think even people who have played with him, and a lot of ex-players have been saying the same thing, that you can see the chaos he causes in opposition defences, but he doesn't have that composure to be the sort of 20-goal a season striker. So I was disappointed it didn't quite happen for him. I'm disappointed he's going to the Saudi Pro League. I would like to have gone to stayed in the Premier League, to be honest with you, because I enjoy watching him play. Whether you think he's prolific or not, there's always something happening with him, whether it's good or bad. But I think it's a little bit sneaky from you to say about Gyökeres, and just because he's coming in now, and as Arsenal fans are a little bit
I think it's a valid
concerned.
question. Is it not a valid question? I mean, I guess the difference is Gyökeres has that experience of English football, albeit in the Championship with Coventry and to a lesser extent Brighton.
Different players in terms of, I think he's more clinical, Gyökeres. I think Nunez is one of those where he's tall, he's strong, he's quick, he can pick the ball up in the halfway line and he can run with it, he can cause absolute havoc, he can go past four players, past the keeper and then hit the post. Whereas I think Gyökeres is more of that sort of box-to-box player, fox-in-a-box player who can be in the right place at the right time. I know he was quiet last night, but it's going to take a little bit of time for him to get used to playing with Arsenal and exactly what Arteta wants. No, I think he's the man that Arsenal have been looking for the last couple of seasons. And listen, I've got no affiliation with Arsenal, but I'm quite excited on their behalf how he's going to do, because we've been saying that for a long time, haven't we? That's exactly what they need. I've mentioned before about how I played against Michael Owen up at Anfield, 5 touches of the game. And 2 of them we put in the back of the net. We're going home thinking we actually played well here and we lost 2-0. That's what a top world-class striker can do. And we'll have to wait and see whether Gyökeres can do it. But that's the difference. They drew far too many games last season, Arsenal. Yeah,
13 draws. I think it was a Premier League high. They'll be hoping that Victor Gyökeres and his arrival can turn some of those draws into victories. Couldn't do it last night. They lost 3-2 against Villarreal at the Emirates yesterday evening in a friendly. It does beg the question, how much do pre-season results really matter? They lost to Spurs as well. I was winding Perry Groves up about that on Friday, about them missing their first chance to get their hands on silverware. My argument, Scott, would be that pre-season is more important for certain clubs than others. I've watched all of Manchester United's pre-season games, for example, and I think there are signs of progress there. I think they look fitter, they look sharper, they look like they know the Amorim system a bit more. But for a team like Arsenal, it's all about when the Premier League gets going for real, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think the Gyökeres deal perhaps went on a little bit longer than perhaps they would have liked, because I've said before that I understand now how much money's in football, and owners, if they can try and save 5 million here or 3 million there just by getting someone a little bit further down the line, then they think that's good business. But actually, from a football point of view, you want these players in from day one of pre-season, so they can travel together, they can get to know each other, not just in terms of the tactics and what the manager's like, but not even what the players are like on the pitch, but off the pitch as well, where you can develop relationships. So important, so underestimated, I think, by the owners. So, look, Arsenal need to hit the ground running. It's a hell of a game, isn't it, opening day of the season.
We'll be there for the Sunday session.
Absolutely, absolutely, against Manchester United. I know you're looking forward to that one already.
Oh well,
but
sort
of. but Arsenal, last season that was their year, and it didn't happen. After 2 years of playing against arguably the best side this country's club side, top flight football's ever seen, then that was meant to be their year, and Liverpool slipped in there. So it's a big year for Arteta and Arsenal for sure.
One player who has generated plenty of interest during this pre-season campaign for Arsenal is 15-year-old midfielder Max Dowman. He once again impressed, winning a penalty in that defeat against Villarreal last night. And after the game, Arsenal boss Mikel Arteta spoke about the teenager's performance.
Well, he continues to impress without a doubt. The impact he had in the game again today, the efficiency that he shows in every attacking action, it's incredible. So again, he deserves to have chances, and if he continues like this, let's see what happens.
Let's see what happens, says Mikel Arteta there, quite tantalisingly. All my Arsenal mates are waxing lyrical about this kid. I've seen some suggestions that maybe he could be an outside contender for a place in England's World Cup squad. That would have echoes of Theo Walcott under Sven-Göran Eriksson. But, I mean, how much do you expect to see Dalman over the course of this upcoming Premier League season? Because we all remember when Arteta gave Ethan Nwaneri his debut, I think it was against Brentford on a Sunday afternoon. He got a bit of stick for that, actually, in some quarters, for sort of trying to make a name for himself by handing a debut to a player so young. And we didn't really see him again for a couple of years. Do you expect Dalman to be in and around the first team this term?
Well, I'm a bit worried about his GCSEs. You know, how's he going to go to school here if he's going to be training with the first team? Look, you know, clearly he's got a massive future ahead of him, and he's a massive talent as well. I am wary. I mean, look, if someone's, say, 17, I think, yeah, if you're good enough, you're old enough, but you still need to be managed to a point. If you're 15, you're still a kid, you know, and you
not look at what Lamine Yamal's done at such a young age and think maybe Dalman could be our Lamine Yamal.
I tell you what, if he's a Lamine Yamal, then he's going to be one of the greatest players this planet has ever seen. So, you know, if you're starting to compare to him, because I covered Spanish football for 4 years, game in, game out, Real Madrid and Barcelona. I watched Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi. Lionel Messi, for me, along with Diego Maradona, the greatest players this planet has produced. And yet, Lamine Yamal, even at this young age, can, and rightly so, be compared to Lionel Messi. If you're now starting to compare Max with Lamine Yamal, you're putting a lot on him there. So as a 15-year-old, I think you need to be careful. You know, I'd like to think not just the club, but he's got good people around him, with his agents, with his family as well. But he's still growing. You know, he's still 15, Crookie. That's incredible. We need to be careful with a talent like that.
Arsenal fans, how excited are you about Max Dalman? Or do you agree with Scott Minto alongside me this morning that maybe you need to be patient with the young superstar? 0371722 3344 is the number. 81089 on the text. Coming up next, we're going to be talking about Benjamin Šeško, what it means for Newcastle seemingly snubbing a move to St James's Park, and asking, do Manchester United still have pulling power even at their lowest ebb in a generation? You're listening to Crook and Minto on talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. It's where the trade go. to Talk Sport in the company of Alex Crook and the former Chelsea FA Cup winning defender Scott Minto. We will be building up to the big championship season kickoff between now and 1 o'clock. Birmingham against Ipswich, live on Talk Sport, as you were hearing during that ad break on Friday night. Gets the second tier underway, but we want to focus on Benjamin Šeško and his convoluted transfer to either Newcastle or Manchester United. More talks in Germany today between Manchester United and RB Leipzig to try and thrash out the finances of this package. Šeško expected to pick Manchester United ahead of Newcastle. It's been a difficult summer for Newcastle so far. Scott, I know you've got strong views on this. They missed out on a number of top targets, but I think there is justification behind the rejections as opposed to Newcastle just being made out to be a club that nobody wants to join. Take Brian and Bumo, for example. He did hold talks with last season's EFL Cup winners, but I think he made it pretty clear that his preferred destination was always Manchester United. Newcastle couldn't match the finances in terms of wages that he was getting offered at Old Trafford either. As soon as Ugo Ekitike came in, I think he would. As soon as Liverpool came in for Ugo Ekitike, he was always going to join the champions. João Pedro was another player they held talks with, but once more, London and Chelsea, his preferred destination. Maybe the only one you can make a case for in terms of the one that got away was James Trafford. Could they have got that deal done earlier in the summer before Manchester City signalled their interest? Yes, but the caveat to that is that Manchester City knew they had the matching rights, so that whatever deal Newcastle agreed, they were always in a position to come in and gazump them. They've also been linked with Matheus Cunha. There was no interest in him, I'm told. Mark Gay is another player who's been mentioned in recent days as maybe someone who prefers a move elsewhere. I'm told at the moment Newcastle not pursuing him. And Mohamed Kudus, who of course joined Tottenham, was also linked with Newcastle. Again, they never held talks with him. So I think the actual number of players that have rejected Newcastle is probably a lot smaller than has been reported in some quarters.
Yeah, I mean it's silly season sometimes, isn't it? When it comes to this particular moment in the transfer window, I just look at Newcastle and maybe it's I'm coming from an English point of view and understand, having played there as well, how passionate those fans are. I just look at the sort of pros of being a Newcastle player right now in this coming season. Champions League, they're dining with the elite of Europe and on the top table, and who knows how far they're going to go. I'm not expecting them to win it, but I do think they can, qualify enough, whether it be through the playoffs or finish straight into the round of 16. Eddie Howe, England's best manager right now. Man management, excellent. Fans are 100% behind him, and crucially, he improves players as well. He makes them better. The incredibly passionate fans that I just mentioned about, even if you're not playing well, you're treated like a god up there. St James's Park, the stadium, is like the cathedral on the hill, where it's all about, they live for the Newcastle matches. So you can be an absolute hero up there. And I just think, all the players that you've mentioned there, okay, maybe not all of them, but a Sesko, a Watkins, a Rissa, a Gerhi, I think that was 12 months ago, more so than this summer tour.
But that wasn't Mark Gay turning down Newcastle. That was because Paul Mitchell, the sporting director at the time, couldn't get a deal done with Crystal Palace. In fact, my understanding
It's the same thing.
But he annoyed Steve Parish so much that in the end, Steve Parish, a couple of weeks before the window closed, just said, whatever you offer me now, I'm not selling you Mark Gay.
Yeah, but I'm talking about, why is Newcastle as a club not attracting even one of these players, one of these top that they are
now.
Got
Anthony Elanga. That was seen as a coup at the time after the season he had at Nottingham Forest. They've got Aaron Ramsdale. Now, a lot of Newcastle fans are pouring scorn on that signing, as Arsenal supporters did when they signed him.
Yeah.
He played a huge part in getting Arsenal back in the Champions League, and that's really paved the foundation for the title challenges that followed. I think Ramsdale will turn out to be a very good signing.
My point here is that if Newcastle, I know PSR is the issue, but I think Newcastle fans are quite within their rights to have questions towards the club and say, hold on a second. We know you've got all this money burning in your pocket and you're not able to spend all of it, but surely you must be able to persuade some of these players. You mentioned a couple there, and Elanga, without a doubt, with the greatest respect to the season that Forest had, it's a big step up to go to Newcastle. But you're talking about Champions League players that you're going for that perhaps already at Champions League clubs, or, you're competing with other Champions League clubs. And when there seems to be any kind of competition at all, Newcastle seem to be falling short. You talk about in Burma.
But they're not losing players.
But you talk about in
losing
Burma.
players to Aston Villa and Bournemouth and even Brighton with respect. They're losing it to the established big six. And that still means something. That still means something.
Those teams are not fighting in the Champions League. So now we talk about it being at Europe's top table. They're now competing. And where do you want to go? Do you want to just try and hope to get into the Champions League? Hope season after season? Or are you saying, no, do you know what? We're going to become one of these absolute teams that are going to be here regularly and then try and push on at some point in the near to medium term future and going for the title itself.
But you can't sit here with a straight face and make an argument that Newcastle is a bigger club than Manchester United.
No.
Unless you're Alan Shearer, and there was obviously a big personal connection then, even though they've been in the doldrums for the last decade, they've still got to 9 finals in 10 years, by the way, you're not going to choose Newcastle over Manchester United. It's not going to happen.
Do you know what? I think it's closer than ever before. I look at United, they were shocking last season. They've been shocking for the last dozen years. They've got a manager who I do like, and I think, it's like turning around the Titanic there at the moment, but he made them worse last season than they were under Ten Hag. So pre-season, it looks like it's gone okay. There's been some good signings, but pre-season, again, we touched on it just a little bit earlier. You wait till the pressure comes on. Pre-season, there's no real pressure. Let's find out. And what does he do? Where does he play Bruno Fernandes? Even if he gets Sesko in, which actually I do think could be a bit of a game changer for United, because we talked about Arsenal needing that striker. Yeah. United have certainly needed that as well. And if he is able to score goals and do a lot better than Højlund's done, then maybe he can make a big, big difference. But where do they play? Where does Bruno play? Bruno's your best player. And yet, if Mbeumo's there and Cunha's there, where do you play him? We saw what happened in the Europa League, in the Europa League final. And I mean, how did they not win that? Two really poor teams, and really the best way of saying it, Spurs were the least worst of the two.
The dog and duck against the Red Lion was how I called it at the end of last season, and the dog and duck just about got the job done. We'll come on to Manchester United, and actually I think it's a fascinating debate about the tactical setup, because Bruno Fernandes started pre-season playing in a deeper midfield role, didn't work at all. They've played him as a number 10 in the last couple of games, and he's had much more of an impact. But just in terms of that list of players then, so Dean Howson goes to Real Madrid, João Pedro goes to Chelsea, Brian Mbeumo goes to Manchester United. Benjamin Šeško is going to go to Manchester United, we believe. James Trafford has gone back to Manchester City to, I think, eventually, and maybe even sooner than you think, become their number one. Which of those players, if you were advising them, if you were an agent, which of those players would you have said, don't go to that club, go to Newcastle?
No, I'd like to talk about Benjamin Šeško, to be honest with you. I look at the comparison with Manchester United, and look, we talked about the cons of United, worst season in 51 years, lost the Europa League final to a really poor side, shocking, some may say toxic culture.
Still the biggest club in the country.
The last 10, 12 years, a manager who's really struggling to get his formation across as well. And I look at the pros, it's Manchester United. That's it. It's the history of Manchester United. It's the past of Manchester United. Mate, I'm not arguing with you. United's the biggest club in this country.
And if you
I
can
think
be
it's
a player,
the second biggest club in the world.
Well, there you
but
go.
I'm looking at the here and now, at how United have been. Each season is what if? What if? What if this new manager can do it? This manager can do it. We just won the FA Cup. Let's keep him. Let's see what happens. No, he goes. Another one comes in, makes it worse. Jose Mourinho's come in, not been able to do anything. They've gone different with a legend with Solskjaer as well. We saw what happened there. I know you're talking about winning cups, and
Jose Mourinho did finish second.
And
won trophies.
And he said that was his best season ever. And I think he was trying to make a point there. So my point is, this is a Manchester United in United name only. And if you're a player now, you've got to be thinking about the next 3-4 years when you're signing. Even up against Chelsea, you could talk about London. Okay, London. I'm sort of not born but bred around the London area, so I'd probably choose Chelsea. But Chelsea are going down a different route of offering 7-8 year contracts. That's why a lot of these players are going, because the contract's worth so much. Why can't Newcastle do something like that? Well, obviously there's a 5-year amortization there now, but they can do something different, and they're not, even with individual players.
But that's not on Andy Howe, is it? Who is sort of the de facto sporting director, because Paul Mitchell has left. We expect Ross Wilson to take up that post. But again, Andy Howe will continue to do a lot of the recruitment. You've got Steve Nixon there as well. You've got Eddie Howe, who we know is a very hands-on manager. they're getting flack in some quarters. But if there is a problem financially in terms of not being able to match the contracts on offer from elsewhere, that's on the owners, isn't it?
Yeah,
and you have to
absolutely.
question, are the Saudi owners as interested in getting Newcastle to be a regular challenger for a Champions League place and maybe even challenge for Premier League titles, as perhaps they suggested when they first came in? I'm sure Newcastle fans have a view on that. Give us a call, 03717 22 33 44. Make the case for why your club is a more attractive proposition than Manchester United at this moment in time. This is talkSPORT.
Let's be honest, we've all found ourselves raging at a referee's decision at some stage. Something like this?
That is an absolutely shocking decision.
They've got a case in that it was a bad decision.
It's such a poor decision.
Yeah, I think he's just made a bad decision in that instance.
But what does it take to get to the very top level of football refereeing? You can apply to become a referee through your local county FA from as soon as your 14th birthday. After spending several hours either in the classroom or on the pitch, they'll grant you Level 7 status, which allows you to officiate amateur games. Then you'll work your way through the ranks of amateur football, not reaching the National League until Level 2. It's a long process, bearing in mind every level from 7 upwards takes an average of a year. Also, there's no specific number of games you have to ref or hours you have to log before moving on up. You simply just have to be good enough. Once you're Level 2 and have enough experience at a National League level, you can apply to the EFL to become a Level 1 referee. Then it's on you to get enough experience to climb through the ranks and eventually become a Premier League referee. In total, there are 37,000 registered referees across England, but the PGMOL has only deemed 21 good enough to officiate games in the top flight. So if you want to make it to the top, there's less than a 1 in 1,000 chance of doing it, and it'll take you a decade to get there.
listening to talkSPORT. I'm Alex Crook. Scott Minto, former Chelsea, Benfica and West Ham left-back, is alongside me all the way through until 1 o'clock. A reminder of the big breaking news we brought you at the top of the programme. Liverpool have now officially agreed a fee with Al Hilal over in Saudi Arabia to sell Darwin Nunez, £46 million up front, plus add-ons. Nunez expected to say his goodbyes to his Liverpool colleagues at their AXA training complex this morning before jetting over to Saudi to undergo a medical. It does mean that Liverpool maybe look a little bit light now at the top end of the pitch. There has been some speculation in France that Bradley Barcola at PSG could be a potential target. I think it's safe to say Alexander Isak remains very much their number one priority. And that brings us neatly on to what we've been talking about, really, Newcastle United and what's been a difficult summer so far. Scott Minto has made the case for Benjamin Šeško snubbing Manchester United to go to St James's Park. Doesn't look as if that is going to happen. We are taking your calls this morning, Newcastle fans, 0371722 3344. Ricky actually is a Liverpool fan. And Ricky, you want to hit back at what I said about Manchester United being the biggest club in the country?
Yeah, I'm getting quite sick of it, to be fair, Crooksy. It's just a narrative getting pushed by a few ex-Man United players, a few media that's Man United supporters. So I've just got a couple of things just to point out. So how do you base Manchester United as the biggest club in England?
Fan base, trophies won. I know you'll say that Liverpool are ahead of that now.
Trophies won. So we'll talk about trophies won. So league titles were joint, so technically now in front. Who's won the most FA Cups? Arsenal. Who's won the most League Cups? Liverpool. Whose English teams won the most Champions Leagues? Liverpool. So 3 out of 4 trophies, you're not even topping one of them.
Okay.
So
what about worldwide fans?
Worldwide fans, is every single fan had a count? No. Social media interactions for 2024, 25. I think Liverpool won that. That's a massive in today's age. Social media interactions. Liverpool got the starting. Now that's not my main concern. The main concern is about the trophies, because I think that's what football's about, really, trophies. And I think Man City are the most valued club at the minute, 5.3 bill.
You're not pretending that Manchester City are a bigger club than Manchester United. You were winning the argument for a while there.
No, I've won the argument because we talk about trophies. That's my main point, Crooksy. And I just feel like, no disrespect to yourself, I love the show, I love you, but you are a Man U fan, same as the Nevilles and the stuff, and the ex-Man U, and I feel like it's just a narrative keep getting pushed.
Scott's not a Manchester United fan. He said they're the biggest club in England and one of the two biggest clubs in the world alongside Real Madrid. Scott?
Yeah, no, I listen, you have made some good points there, and as much as I'm very much a football person, not a commercial person, I think you've got to look at the commercial side as well, and I do believe that United are bigger on that front. I think it shows the fact that they've been away almost for 12 years. Okay, yes, I know you're saying they've won trophies, Crookie, but a million miles away from the Premier League. That there's still that Sir Alex Ferguson legacy left over, and that's why someone like Benjamin Šeško wants to come. I think Liverpool are so close, and the fact that they have come back, and obviously I grew up watching them and actually supporting them, being born in the Wirral in the 70s and 80s, the best team in Europe at that particular time. But I think United, with the commercial world that we've had, I feel has taken over. But I tell you what, Liverpool are coming on strong, because they're so good at the moment, but also because United are so bad.
And in fairness to Liverpool, they've now won more Premier League titles than both Leicester and Blackburn Rovers. So fair play to them for that.
Oh, so football started in 1982, did it?
Let's bring in Vince. I think he's a Newcastle fan. Vince, what's your view on all this?
Hi guys, it's actually a balanced view, first of all. Thanks for having me on as well. Hope you guys are good. I love the show. But the balanced view is, generally Newcastle fans are getting lambasted. They think they are this big top six. We're not. And there is a fair lot of people have to accept. We accept where we are in the pecking order. But I think it doesn't come down to, long-term contracts, which is proven Isak doesn't, honour that 6-year. That's a long-term contract. It's not that we're not getting the long-term contracts through the door. I think it's simply down to individual players. You look at, when Trips came across, he could have signed anywhere, really, in the Prem. He chose us. I think it comes down to individual players, mentality, and beliefs. Bruno could obviously went anywhere he wanted as well. Chose Newcastle. I think it's about people and individuals in life who choose a dream over the money. Because, yes, we're not offering that big money like Man United. So I think it's down to individuality.
Scott?
I've just lost my earpiece.
Okay.
You have to answer that one.
I think to be fair, that was quite a realistic appraisal of the situation when it comes to Newcastle and Manchester United. Let's bring in Kevin. He's a Leeds fan. Kevin, as a Leeds fan, I'm guessing you're not going to tell me that Manchester United are the biggest club in England.
I don't think it's anything to do with that. I'm a Leeds fan, but I'm a football fan. The missus is Newcastle. But I think we're all missing the bigger picture, really. It's quite simple. Manchester United, taking personal effects out of it, aren't what they used to be. What they're offering Sesko is a nice big contract, half the amount of games, no stress or pressure, no competition for your place.
No pressure when it comes to playing for Manchester United. The shirt alone weighs heavily. We've seen that with Rasmus Højlund.
But it doesn't anymore, though.
It does.
It used to do, but it doesn't. What, you finished 15th last year, you're not in Europe. I would call it a pretty stress-free year you've got coming up. You've got one job, make Europe. And you're buying a player that needs to come in with no competition for his place. If he makes Europe and has a good season, is a hero and is being paid well. If you don't make Europe, it's the club's fault. Sesko can say, oh, well, I'm just another cog in the wheel. And it's less pressure and ownership by the player. Whereas you look at Newcastle, not saying Newcastle are a bigger club in history, but if you look at Newcastle, he knows he's going in to replace Isak. Them Geordies are massive on their strikers. That's huge. He's in European football. It's a big price tag for a young man. He's got to land on the floor running and perform well at a club performing better than Manchester United at the moment. So he's playing less games, he's getting paid more money.
No, listen. I've made the case for Newcastle over Manchester United anyway, not over Liverpool. But I can't agree with you there in terms of the pressure. I mean, exactly what we've seen over the last 12 years is what we saw last year. Players not been able to handle the weight of the shirt. And who's to say that it can't be the same again? I know what you're saying about no Europe, and I think that is a plus point. As much as Manchester United need to be in Europe every single year, you know, Ruben Amorim complained, didn't he, that he hasn't been able to have time to work on his system. Well, he certainly will be this season. But no, I'm sorry. There's so much pressure. And it's more difficult to come into a team that's struggling than it is to a team that's really good. So he's taken a difficult decision there for sure.
And actually, you talk about Manchester United. Thanks for the call, Kevin. And no Champions League football this season. And we were debating before we came on air, and I said, well, Newcastle probably will only be in the Champions League for one season. I know they were there a couple of years ago, but couldn't follow it up. You and the producer, who is a Newcastle fan, took issue with that. I think I'm right in saying this is only the third time in the Premier League era that Manchester United have gone into a season without European football. And bearing in mind they've been rubbish for 10 years, that is still quite some achievement.
Crookie, there's European football and European football. Now, don't get me wrong, I never
sunk down to the Conference League.
No, but both my old clubs. I was in Prague when West Ham won it. I was in Poland when Chelsea won it as well. I mean, and with respect, Chelsea should not be in the third tier of European football, and they won't be. And I hope that continues to be the case. But this is Manchester United we're talking about. If we're going to dress them up as, if not the biggest, then certainly one of the biggest in the country and in the world, Europe's irrelevant. It's the Champions League, and it's fighting for the Champions League to win it and to win the Premier League itself. And they're still a million miles away from that. So
where do you think they'll finish, out of interest? Because I was...
Well, I know where you think they'll finish.
Well, go on, you tell me where you think they'll finish, and then I'll chip in.
I think the best they can finish is top 8. Top eight.
So give me the 7 teams that you think have finished ahead of them. I mean, the top 4's a shoo-in, isn't it? Liverpool, I think, will win the league. You might have a different view to that. Arsenal are going to be in the top 4. City, with their rebuild, will be in the top 4, and I think Chelsea will as well. But I think if you scratch beneath that, and you look at the teams who finished ahead of Manchester United last season, pretty much everybody, I know that. But Newcastle, if they lose Alexander Isak, are going to be at a massive disadvantage, and they've got Champions League football. Aston Villa, because they missed out on the Champions League and not in a strong position financially. Who knows what's going to happen with Ollie Watkins? I think it would be very unlikely that Nottingham Forest can emulate what they did last season, particularly with European football. Brighton have lost João Pedro. I know they're a club who are really good at selling players and then buying replacements. We'll talk to Lewis Dunk about that later in the programme. But there's no guarantee that they're going to finish as high as they did last year. Bournemouth were 9th. They've lost a lot of their top defence. So I think we all agree on the top 4. So give me the other 3 teams that you think are guaranteed to finish above Manchester United. I think they'll finish 5th.
Let's not forget that United finished 15th last season. And we're almost lucky to finish 15th. they were certainly lucky, and other teams were lucky as well. The 3 were that bad that relegation was never really a problem. But you've got to jump above a lot of teams there. And I understand what you're saying about, some of the teams, and I think they probably should. Crystal Palace maybe struggling a little bit. They should be finishing above Fulham, but no guarantees on that.
Fulham hardly signed a player.
Well, yeah, but, again, we talk about where United are coming from. Brentford, Keith Andrews has got a job in his hands for sure. I think anyone following Thomas Frank would have done, and with the top players going, but I wish him all the very, very best, and I know he's doing well at the moment, and the lads respect him there. But yeah, I expect him to finish above Brentford. Probably above Bournemouth. They've lost some key players as well. I don't see them finishing above Brighton.
No?
I don't. I think Brighton are in a really good place. So we've got Liverpool, Arsenal, City, Chelsea, Brighton, Villa.
Yeah,
Villa. I think Villa are so far ahead of United at the moment that United have got a lot of catch up to do, and they haven't got the sort of Champions League. It's just Europa League.
That can be even more taxing. A lot of players complain about playing Thursday night, Sunday afternoon.
It's just Cookie. It's the same thing. Thursday, Sunday, Wednesday, Saturday.
Seems to catch a lot of teams out.
Well, that's excuses. It's the same difference of time, so that's not a problem at all. And Newcastle, how many teams have I mentioned there? 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, you've got your 7.
5. Yeah, I've got my 7. So, and that's saying that United will
improve
a lot. Not just they will improve. They've got to improve a lot.
They are 5th favourites. In some quarters, in terms of the top 4, they're all odds on. I think, and then Manchester United, I think, about 11 to 10 to finish.
Be honest with me. Look in the whites of my eyes. Are you talking with your head or your heart?
No. I've seen pre-season. I've seen signs of encouragement. Ruben Amorim has got no excuses now because he's getting players in, he's getting players out, which I think is crucial. I thought Luke Shaw's comment about getting rid of the stragglers, but maybe we'll get into that later, was really telling. I think Manchester United will finish 5th, which is not a massive achievement, by the way, for the biggest club in the country. You're listening to Crook and Minto on talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. Check out this month's real deals at selcobw.com. Plenty of transfer talk, but at the other end of the footballing spectrum, there are teams in serious financial difficulty, and we're going to be looking at Sheffield Wednesday and Morecambe and their plight next. You're listening to Crook and Minto on talkSPORT on this Thursday morning. We're speaking a lot about Newcastle and Manchester United as the pursuit for Benjamin Šeško hots up. Manchester United, we're told, holding fresh talks with RB Leipzig this morning to try and get that deal over the line. Šeško seemingly having picked Manchester United ahead of Newcastle, but it's not as rosy as it is for Manchester United in terms of finances for clubs lower down the food chain. Sheffield Wednesday and Morecambe, fans of both those teams, really being put through the ringer as the new season approaches. Delighted to say we can speak to Kieran Maguire, co-host of the Price of Football podcast, football finance expert, all thanks to Tesco Mobile for Business.
Bring it on with talkSPORT.
Yeah, very good morning to you, Kieran. Let's start with the situation at Sheffield Wednesday. Very worrying indeed ahead of their first match of the Championship season. They're away to Leicester, live on talkSPORT 2 on Sunday lunchtime. There was some suggestion that maybe that game could be in doubt after the players decided to pull out of a friendly against Burnley in protest against the way the club is being run. We heard from Barry Bannon on talkSPORT this week, and he insisted they wouldn't pull out of the upcoming Championship opener. Then we hear that the EFL has since put fresh sanctions on Sheffield Wednesday, including a limit in terms of what they can pay new signings, £7,000 a week. Kieran, how do you understand it? In terms of Barry Bannon, for example, who's been training without a contract for much of pre-season, has now agreed to sign, but will they be able to register him to play in this game on Sunday?
Yes, because it's a renewal of a contract, they should be okay. I think as far as broader recruiting is concerned, the average wage in the Championship is £14,000 a week. So realistically, the sanctions given by the EFL, which are trying to force the hand of the owner, Dejon Chansiri, are going to mean that Wednesday are going to have to recruit players who perhaps got more experience of League One, which puts them at a disadvantage. It has to be said that they've done very well in the Championship in the sense that they had the third lowest wage budget last season, and they managed to finish a very creditable position. But they have lost some of their better players who have walked away, in effect, at the end of the season due to a breach of contract by the club. 3 late payments in 4 months is a pretty poor management issue. And Dejon Chansiri doesn't appear to be listening to polite, friendly words, so the EFL is taking a harsher stance.
You say that, Kieran. The key line from the statement the EFL issued yesterday for me was that they continue to pursue options available to resolve the challenges. To that end, the league is currently in advanced discussions with Mr. Chansiri's legal advisors on formalising a process around divestment of his shareholding in the club. Now, this happened at Reading, didn't it, with Dai Young? They basically forced him to sell his shares by a certain date. Is that what's going to happen?
That's what the EFL ideally would like to do. It was slightly easier with Dai Young in the sense that he had been found guilty of some activities in China, and therefore that triggers under the owners and directors test that you're now deemed to be a person that has an unspent criminal record, and they can force you out. It's not as easy with Dai Yonga. It's not as easy with Dejon Chansiri and Sheffield Wednesday, but at least that there is some form of communication taking place. There's always a concern with Mr. Chansiri is that sometimes he disappears for a period of time and he's difficult to access. The fact that there's a line of dialogue, there's certainly interested parties. You know, I'm aware of 2 or 3 who want to buy Sheffield Wednesday, and it's now a case of persuading Chansiri that the club's not worth £100 million. I think that was the last figure he was involved in terms of quoting. It's worth substantially less, and explaining to him why it's worth less and persuading him that it's in his own best interest to sell the club, because it's still losing money, it's still costing him money every week, if the wages are going to be paid and the other bills as well.
Yeah, Kieran, it sounds like you've got a nice house and people are saying, "Oh, don't worry, someone will buy it." But if your price is way outside of what the realistic expectations are, then people aren't going to put the money down. But you mentioned about a couple of people who might be interested in it. the former Crystal Palace owner, John Textor, said he's definitely interested as well, but has not held talks with Chansiri. Would he be a good option to buy the club and take them forward?
Well, I think John Textor has a significant number of outstanding issues relating to some of his other football clubs, which probably need resolution first. He has money owed to other parties. Now, he has sold his shares in Crystal Palace. Does that give him sufficient money to therefore buy Sheffield Wednesday in terms of a controlling stake? We'd have to wait and see. Would he pass the owners and directors test? Well, he was deemed by the Premier League to be somebody worthy of owning a football club. So he is an option. If you talk to fans of other clubs that he's been involved with, I think it's fair to say the view of him is mixed.
I was going to say, if John Textor is the answer, I'm not entirely sure what the question is. Let's move on to the situation at Morecambe, which seems even more dire, Kieran, than Sheffield Wednesday's plight. We know they've been suspended by the National League until the 20th of August due to their perilous financial situation. The league has serious concerns surrounding the club, and they've warned there could be further sanctions. I think there's a grim danger, isn't there, that Morecambe become the latest club to go out of business. My question to you, and this all surrounds the owner, Jason Whittingham, who obviously hasn't been able to agree a takeover of the club. There was interest from the Punjabi Warriors, but that didn't get over the line. You look a bit more into Jason Whittingham and his companies. He's been disqualified as a company director for 12 months following a court hearing in 2022. And in fact, if you look into his previous businesses, of 25 companies that he's run during his career, according to Companies House, 18 have either been dissolved or voluntary dissolved. How on earth did the Football League let this guy get in charge of Morecambe in the first place?
I think it's fair to say that a few years ago, the regime at the EFL was fairly lax, was provided that you had the money to buy the club, we won't really get involved any further. Certainly, the EFL is taking a much harsher line under Trevor Birch compared to the previous executives, and that's to be applauded. But we saw with the likes of Steve Dale that people who have got no interest in football, who have a very poor track record in terms of their corporate behaviour, can still get into the football ecosphere and buy clubs at a very low rate of money. For Steve Dale acquired Bury for £1, for example. Jason Whittingham, his track record is absolutely appalling, and I've seen the pronouncements that he's made on the club website, and that we've not seen something for a while. Lots of broken promises. I've been through all of his companies at Companies House. They're either not making money, in receivership, administration, or liquidated. It does call into question the professionalism of the EFL back a few years ago, but I do think that things have improved since then.
You say that, Kieran, and I'm sure they have. What about the independent football regulator then? They're just around the corner. Will they stop cases like the Morecambe and Sheffield Wednesday, or is the game set up that there will always be a struggle here?
It will make things more difficult. It's a bit like having a burglar alarm at your house. The burglar might go to the next house down the road. We have police, but we still have crime. If we have an independent regulator, I think it will turn down the dial a bit, but you've still got incumbent owners whose circumstances change. We saw that with Derby County. Mel Morris put a huge amount of money into the club, and also in the shape of Dejan Chansiri, he's put in about £180 million into Sheffield Wednesday. It's just not been spent particularly well, and now when the money does run out, you can't foresee that. I mean, to be fair to the EFL, they couldn't have realised his money would have run out in 2016 because that requires a crystal ball, and nobody in football has that. So whilst we have this culture in football of allowing clubs to lose money every single year, it means that they are over-dependent upon owners, and if the owner's circumstances change, or if the owner's attitude towards the club changes, then there's a genuine chance of losing the football clubs in their present form.
Kieran, thanks very much for joining us. Our thoughts, of course, go out to fans of Morecambe and Sheffield Wednesday. That was a roundup of football's top business stories with Tesco Mobile for Business.
Business briefing on talkSPORT with Tesco Mobile for Business. Got a side hustle selling clothes? Save in style with business phone bills for up to 40% less than the big three networks. For verification, see tescomobile.com/business.
Well, the first hour of the programme has absolutely flown by. Still plenty more to come between now and 1 o'clock, including on the way next. A week to go until the new Premier League season kicks off. We'll be hearing exclusively from Brighton captain Lewis Dunk.
How did it all come crashing down for Wales so suddenly? In his first tenure in charge, Warren Gatland built a dynasty, taking young guns and turning them into giants, not just for Wales, but for the Lions as well. 4 Six Nations titles, 3 of them Grand Slams, and in 2019, a world #1 ranking. But then, a record drop-off, golden generation all but gone, a first wooden spoon for 21 years and 14 losses on the bounce. Why? Perhaps the main reason was poor spending. During Gatland's first tenure, the WRU committed its funds to world-leading training facilities for the national side, but underinvested in the club scene. Despite Ireland raking in similar overall revenues, its union would be committing up to £30 million a year more than Wales to their provincial clubs. In 2023, a report found the WRU had flitted away an £84 million TV deal on the purchase of a Cardiff hotel and a zip wire above the Principality. At the same time, the regional budgets and salary caps were being slashed, and they're still being cut. Add this to a distinct lack of player pathways when compared to the private school-fueled setups in Ireland, Scotland and England, the continuous rise of football's popularity and generational talents going elsewhere. It all meant when Abby Tierney became CEO, having never worked in sport before, she had a mountain to climb. And yet the beauty of sport, of course, is it isn't played in the boardroom, and sometimes it takes surprisingly little for the narrative to shift almost overnight. When Gatland left for the second time, interim coach Matt Sherratt only had 3 training sessions before Wales' next game, but the team looked unrecognisable, and all he did was pick players in the right positions and provide a bit of attacking structure. Suddenly, Wales were back pushing Ireland to the wire. As Gatland's first tenure taught us, for Wales' success to be sustainable, once the books are balanced, the regions need more money, salary caps need boosting, player pathways need investment. But it doesn't have to mean Wales lose every game in the meantime.
are listening to Talk Sport with me, Alex Crook, and the birthday boy from yesterday, the big 6-0, Scott Minto, is alongside me.
You must be only a couple of years behind me.
All the way through until 1 o'clock. We've already covered a fair few topics this morning, including the debate raging between Manchester United and Newcastle fans over which club Benjamin Šeško should choose. We understand more talks due to take place probably as we're on air between Manchester United and Šeško's current club RB Leipzig. Darwin Nunez is on his way out of Liverpool. They've confirmed a £46 million deal, including bonuses, has been agreed with Al Hilal. He is saying goodbye to his Liverpool teammates. It does mean that Liverpool are on the hunt for a striker who can go straight into their team. Well, they have one at St James's Park that I know Liverpool would love to sign. We will keep you bang up to date with all the developments around Alexander Isak's future as well, because we are just 8 days out now from the start of the new Premier League season, live on talkSPORT a week tomorrow as the champions Liverpool take on Bournemouth. Lots of clubs have been in pre-season friendly action. I was at St Mary's on Saturday as Southampton and Brighton played out an entertaining 2-2 draw, and ahead of the new Premier League campaign, I spoke exclusively to Seagull skipper Lewis Dunk. Lewis, here we are a couple of weeks out for the start of the new Premier League season. How are you feeling? Optimistic? Excited? Both?
Yeah, both. Of course, excited. You always look forward to when you get closer to it and the real stuff starts. Obviously, we had a good pre-season as a team, and yeah, we're feeling in a good place, and hopefully we can have a good season.
It's been an interesting summer, isn't it, with some big name departures but new arrivals as well. How would you assess the squad? You've seen a few down the years.
It's just like usual, isn't it? I'm used to it. But yeah, no, we got some good signings coming. Obviously lost some big players, but the boys coming in are going to fill their shoes, and yeah, our target is to, like every year, keep on improving and hopefully get back to where we want to get back to. And yeah, you never know what it's going to be like, but hopefully we can just be a bit more consistent than last year, and we'll be in a good place.
And when you say get back to where you want to get to, obviously you had Europe a couple of years ago.
Yeah, of course, we felt it once and we enjoyed it, and we want to be back there. And we think and we know as a team we can do that. Obviously it's a difficult task every year because there's a lot of good teams in the Premier League. So let's see where we end up.
And for you on a personal level, it's been quite a long couple of years, isn't it? You've played a lot of football, obviously been in and around the England squad as well. You look sharp out there today. Do you feel as fit as you have done for a while?
Yeah, I had a good off-season and a good pre-season where I tried to get in my best shape. Obviously I had a rough season last year of injuries, and I only had one choice to work hard in the off-season and make sure I'm right for pre-season. Thankfully, throughout pre-season I've been fit and healthy, and hopefully it can stay like that. So yeah, I think the break come at a good time for me. The holidays, the chill time, forgetting about football, and yeah, it was nice.
Karim Matoma also had a few injuries last season. He looked pretty sharp out there today. Obviously he's committed his future to the club. Would you expect a big season from him?
Of course, I think we all know what he can bring. Hopefully more of that stuff like against Chelsea. Hopefully he can do a few more of them. But no, he's a top player, and we're lucky to have him. When he's on the ball, you can always create something. So we need players like that, and he's one of them in our team that can do that.
And it was a good debut as well, or a good first game on English soil for Maxim de Kuyper. What have you seen of him in pre-season? Do you think he's going to be suited to the Premier League? A lot of people seem to think he could be a wild card in terms of the fantasy team with his assists.
I think so, yeah. He settled in really well. Obviously, the Dutch lads have helped him settle in really well. Trip to Marbella helped, and yeah, me and him are building a relationship on the left side, and hopefully we can have a strong relationship and build well, and hopefully has a great season.
Because you're obviously one of the elder statesmen in the team now, do you look at each season differently, maybe than when you were younger?
Probably appreciate it more. When you're young, the older players always tell you, yeah, enjoy it because it goes quick, and yeah, now I look back and yeah, it's gone quick. So I've got a lot left in me, but yeah, the years have flown by, and you probably appreciate it more. And yeah, I get into the older ages where I want to achieve something with this football club, and hopefully this can be the year.
Brighton captain Lewis Dunk raring to go ahead of the start of the new Premier League season, which gets underway next weekend. It was interesting, Scott, there that he said the club are used to selling their best players. It's happened again this summer. João Pedro in particular moving from Brighton to Chelsea. They do seem to have this incredible ability to cash in at the right time and then unearth the next gem. Can that go on forever?
No, you wouldn't have thought it going forever, but there's no doubt about it. The genius there is Tony Bloom. I mean, he is Brighton. And, you know, I remember covering them in the Championship, and he managed to get into the Premier League. It seemed harsh for Chris Hughton to go, and yet each manager has taken them further and further on. And obviously he went very different last season with the youngest manager still in all 4 divisions. And they spent a lot of money, more money than they have spent ever before. But I think at 8th, if they want to try and kick on and that sort of regular going for Europe, they have to try and do that. They're still looking at the model of buying cheaper, but they're just spending a little bit more in that and selling big. But I think it's a big season for Lewis Dunk as well. I think he's been the one constant, hasn't he, for Brighton all that time. He's a Brighton legend. I think we absolutely are fair enough to say that.
A one-club man.
Absolutely. But I think it's also fair to say that he struggled last season with injuries, and he struggled when he was trying to come back. He didn't look really 100% fit. So it's interesting listening to him, not just during pre-season, but during the off-season as well. He's making sure that he was 100% fit because they brought in people. They've brought in players. You know, Diego Coppola's an under-21 international for Italy. Olivia Boscali as well, who's been brought in.
And they've been trying to get him for a while and ended up getting him on a free transfer.
Yeah.
His contract expired.
So there's competition there for places. And that's why, you know, I'm reasonably confident that Brighton are still going to be chasing that sort of European place on a regular basis and to be finishing above your United.
Well, my only concern will be where the goals are coming from. I know João Pedro didn't have a stellar season last year. Danny Welbeck got into double figures in the Premier League for the first time in his career, but I think there's always a nagging doubt that he's going to be injured at some point, maybe more than one point across the course of the season. They spent a lot of money on a young striker from Greece, so I don't think he's quite ready to come in and play regularly in the Premier League. So that would be my concern for them. One player who's been linked away from the Amex in the last 24 hours is midfielder Carlos Baleba. As I say, it's interesting that Lewis Dunk there was saying that from within the dressing room, they're used to links with their best players. Let's hear from Paul Barber, the chief executive, always so open when it comes to such matters. He was speaking at a fans forum last night and was asked about Brighton's stance on potentially cashing in on Baleba.
We've got some great talent. There's always going to be interest in our players. Manchester United have not been in touch with me. So, you know, from that point of view, speculation. We will always, as I said earlier, you know, try and make sure that we sell our best players at the right time, not just for the player, but also for us. And if we end up doing that with any player, it was with the view to leaving Fabian with a very competitive squad, whatever happens. But, you know, we don't want to sell our best players. Carlos is fantastic talent. He's got a lot of years ahead of him. And, you know, we hope he will be here for many years to come. But, you know, it's something that, as always, is subject to the dynamics of the football world, which is not always predictable.
There you go, Paul Barber reacting to rumours. Manchester United interested in signing Carlos Baleba, their midfielder, this summer. I did speak to somebody senior at Brighton after that fans forum last night. The message I got was loud and clear. Baleba not for sale this summer. I can understand why Manchester United want him, but I think Brighton feel that he's going to be worth just as much as what Chelsea paid for Moises Caicedo.
Yeah, listen, he's not going. He's not going in this particular window anyway, and I'll be surprised he doesn't go at the very earliest until next year. But I do understand why United are coming in for him, and he does look like a Moises Caicedo. You know, he's a very, very good player. The physicality he's already shown at such a young age, the football intelligence that he's got, he can go box to box if need be. He's a really, really good player. And if Brighton are to try, and it's one thing to bring in players and then to go on and sell, but actually still you need to make sure you're progressing as a football club as well. And you asked me, can they keep on doing this? Well, they are doing this with Baleba. But at the same point, the timing's got to be right. And I think that's where Paul Barber and Tony Bloom, again, have got it absolutely spot on. They always seem to do it when the timing's right.
Absolutely. Well, on the subject of Moises Caicedo, we're going to be speaking about Scott Minto's former club, Chelsea, in the next part of the programme. They've got 12 players there or thereabouts to shift this summer. Might be easier said than done. In some cases, you are listening to Crook and Minto on talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. It's where the trade go. You're listening to Crook and Minto on talkSPORT, just trying to arrange our social diary. We got this,
it's tough, isn't it?
We got this big pal, Sam Matterface. He is so demanding of our time, honestly. We just want to go home and see our wives from time to time, Sam. Anyway, we are with you.
We'll get a text off him soon.
I think he's on a flight.
Oh, is he? Okay.
Big Chelsea fan, though. I'm sure he won't mind me saying that. He's been crowing about your victory in the Club World Cup, and it's been another summer of change, isn't it, for Chelsea? They've already raised £180 million in sales so far this summer with the likes of Noni Madueke, João Felix, Georgi Petrovic, who of course gone down to Bournemouth, Kiernan Dewsbury Hall, joined Everton yesterday, Bashir Humphries has left the club, Kepa Arrizabalaga, Leslie Agachukwu, and Mark Guiu has gone out on loan as well to Sunderland. That still leaves 13 players, Scott, that Chelsea are willing to cash in on, and Kunku, Disasi, Badiashile, Chilwell, Sterling, Alfie Gilchrist, who I think will probably go out on loan to the Championship, Kane Chukwuemeka, Nicholas Jackson, who we're told Chelsea value at £80 million. We reported that exclusively on the talkSPORT notebook a few weeks ago. Renato Vega, Armando Broja, David Datro Fofana, also available for transfer. How on earth do you start to shift some of those?
First of all, have we had a proper well done to Chelsea from you? To say, because that wasn't just winning the Club World Cup, that was annihilating the best team in the world.
Didn't we do a podcast special on the Premier League All Access podcast this very week? And I said that was a statement result, and I think Chelsea should be considered as outsiders for the title on the back of it.
Right. Okay. So it was a well done. Okay. Fair enough. Because I know we've been trying for weeks to try and get that out of you, Sam and I, but we finally done it. Yeah. Look, I mean, it's not many times that you can have not a go, but sort of question owners for spending too much. Normally it's like spending too little. But I do feel that Chelsea, with the amount that they spent, that in itself brings obviously pressure on itself. People turn around and say spending £1.5 billion, and rightly so, you should be chasing the Premier League title. My argument would be, because they've gone down such a young route, wasn't just the youngest average starting 11 last season in the Premier League by 18 months. It's the youngest average starting 11 in the Premier League ever. But I think Enzo Maresca has done a fantastic job. I really do. And I know he was a bit Marmite for a lot of even Chelsea fans last season. But my argument was, yes, they should have won, and they did win the Europa Conference League. But with those youngsters to finish in a Champions League place, I don't think people realise how difficult it was from the very start of the season when they had so many players. And he had to have a little bit of a bomb squad. No one really wants to be doing that in football, but he had to be ruthless. They started off well. They were never going to last throughout the whole season. And I don't agree with people who turn around and said he shouldn't have said they were too young around Christmas time. They were always going to fall away. And if it had said the opposite, then people would have used that to have beat him with a stick, once they did fall away. They were always going to do that. The end of the season was absolutely sensational. But look, again, he's in this situation, isn't he? The pre-season obviously is very short because of what happened in the Club World Cup. But at the same time, he's got to be, and he will be, absolutely ruthless with the people he uses. And how the club gets rid of these players that they don't particularly want is almost not his business.
They're not going to get £80 million for Nicholas Jackson, are they?
No. But I'm telling you, there's a player there. There's a player there. If you look back in his history, and actually he never played in a professional academy. So he's actually never been almost professionally taught. And he only had that sort of one good season or half a good season at Villarreal. And suddenly he's in the spotlight of being the Chelsea's number one main striker. So he should never have been given that tag in the first place. And I think he did really well considering, he's still learning the game. He's playing for one of the biggest clubs in Europe. And actually, yes, of course, he misses chances, but, he's big, he's strong, he's powerful, he can hold the ball up, he can run the lines. He's not getting offside as many times as he used to in his first season. I still think that finishing, I think probably will never quite be there. I mentioned Michael Owen earlier, like a Robbie Fowler, an Alan Shearer. But I still think he can be a really good player. So for me, I don't think he'd be a bad player for Newcastle at all if Alexander Isak goes, or even if he doesn't, because obviously Callum Wilson has gone as well. But I do think that the price is the main issue, and no, he's not worth 80 million.
Just looking at Chelsea's start of the season, and you mentioned, obviously, they lost on the opening day to Manchester City, but they did get off to a flyer apart from that. I think their fixtures are very favourable, certainly for the first 3 or 4 games. Palace at home, first Sunday of the season. You'll hear updates on that on the Sunday session on talkSPORT. Then they go to West Ham on a Friday night, live on talkSPORT. I know that's always a bit of a grudge match between two of your former employers.
Yeah, played in that fixture. Yeah.
Fulham at home, that's also live on talkSPORT at the end of August. Fulham, of course, won at Stamford Bridge on Boxing Day last year. And then another derby, another West London showdown against Brentford, 8 o'clock Saturday, September the 13th. There are points to be won from those first 4 games.
There are. I think it's a great opportunity for them. And, the question is, we're hearing about Levi Colwell's picked up an injury already in the first couple of days of pre-season. There's 2 games coming up this weekend. And clearly the fact that there being 2 games in 3 days, they're not all going to play 90 minutes. So he's got to manage minutes again. It's about trying to just get them back up without picking up injuries and trying to go in too fast. So that Palace game, that's going to be a difficult one. I know Palace aren't in a great position in terms of where Glasner wants to be from the end of last season. But I just think to pick the baton up from where they were, yes, they've got the confidence, but, which one of these players are going to be fit? We'll have to wait and see.
And you mentioned Colwell there, and it does sound like that could be potentially an injury that might keep him out for the start of the season. Obviously, Chelsea fans will be hoping that isn't the case. Is that the weakest part of the team, the centre of defence? And do you still have reservations about the goalkeeper?
Yeah, look, do I feel bad saying it? I've got to give my honest opinion. Robert Sanchez had his best game in a Chelsea shirt in the final.
Because he kicked it long?
PSG. No, he made some good saves as well. But his timing was right. And you talk about because he kicked it long. 1, the tactics are absolutely spot on for Maresca, but 2, he timed it at the right time. He sometimes he did pass the ball into Cole Palmer, who dropped deep. Other times he'd play it long towards Malo Gusto. So his decision making was really good. If you could bottle that game up and play like that every single game going forwards, don't need another goalkeeper. I haven't seen it. I can give you 2 instances in the Club World Cup where I felt he shouldn't have conceded goals. So for me, I still feel it's goalkeeper. And in an ideal world, a really senior, experienced, excellent, a 5 years younger Thiago Silva to come in.
Well, that's not the model, is it? They're not going to go for that type of player anymore.
No. But that's where I asked the question, at what point do you really want to go for the big trophies? And don't get me wrong, the Club World Cup is a big trophy when you think about the teams that were involved in that. But now, over a whole season, 10 months, you're going to need proper, senior, experienced pros to go with the youngsters you've already got. You only need a little sprinkle of players now. Don't need too many. We just talked about how actually the biggest issue might be getting players out.
Yeah.
But that's not an issue for Maresca. It's just about maybe a goalkeeper, a top centre-half, and then I'll start talking about Chelsea maybe trying to go for the title itself.
I was surprised when I was looking at the odds ahead of the season that Chelsea, of the teams that we expect to finish in the top 4, Arsenal, City, Liverpool, they're the only ones available at a double-figure price. They're around about 10-1 to win the Premier League. I think that's too big.
It's big, but I don't see them doing it. And I know you love your horse racing. I know you only get your money back on a winner. And I don't see it happening. I think Liverpool are too strong. I think Arsenal will be too strong. I actually think City will be too strong as well. If Chelsea are able to finish in the Champions League places again, go deep in the Champions League and maybe even win a domestic cup, I think that's progress.
There you go, Scott Minto, former Chelsea player, saying that they're not quite ready to challenge for the Premier League title just yet. Get in touch, Chelsea fans, if you have a view on that. 81089 is the text number, 03717 223344. We're going to be speaking Spurs next and Son's departure from the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.
When Sir Jim Ratcliffe took control of footballing operations at United, the Manchester-born billionaire was somewhat welcomed in as a homegrown hero, ready to save the club from the dark days of the Glazers. But in just 12 months, he became a punchbag for many fans. So what happened? Well, let's take a look and you can decide for yourself. Over the last 3 years, the club lost 300 million quid, and Ratcliffe rightfully committed to sorting that. But what seemed to get fans' backs up is the way he went about it. For example, talkSPORT understands staff lunch options at the Carrington canteen have been reduced to just soup and sandwiches, which the higher-ups at the club say will save them 1 million quid a year. Now, that might make sense for many who don't get free meals at work themselves, but it does get a little bit more picky than that. It was reported that after staff brought some stationery, they were ordered to send sellotape back because it wasn't considered to be essential. And the reward for being Steward of the Week used to be 50 quid, but that was scrapped and replaced by a paper certificate. But it's not just seemingly stingy decisions. In 2024 alone, Ratcliffe oversaw 250 redundancies, and more were announced at the beginning of 2025. Now, while there are people who acknowledge United staff numbers are overinflated, it's the optics which aren't great. Add to the mix the introduction of a flat ticket price of 66 quid for every fan, even children, while Casemiro's on 350 grand a week, and the frustration of fans reached fever pitch. Time will tell whether Ratcliffe's cost-cutting measures will improve outcomes at the club, but one thing's for sure, there's a long way to go for United to be back where many say they belong.
You are listening to talkSPORT, myself, Alex Crook, alongside the FA Cup winner with Chelsea back in 1997, Scott Minto. And it's time now to catch up on the latest odds, all thanks to BetMGM.
It's showtime on talkSPORT with BetMGM. Get ready for the golden era of sports betting. Visit betmgm.co.uk or download the app. 18+gambleaware.org.
And I'm delighted to say joining us this morning is Matt Gibson from BetMGM to look at today's top sporting events and discuss the latest odds. Matt, the Championship returns live on talkSPORT tomorrow night. I can't see past Ipswich as runaway winners of the second tier, and I think the odds probably suggest the same.
Yeah, Crook, as you know, this is a division that I've had to follow for a number of years. So we'll be keeping a close eye on it this year, and maybe I'm closer to it next year as well. But yeah, mate, we agree in terms of bookies. Ipswich 3-1 to win the division outright. Then Southampton at fives. Leicester are kind of the one that break the mould with these relegated teams. They're a bit of a bigger price at 12s, potentially due to a points deduction because of their financial misdemeanours. Wouldn't surprise me to see Sheffield United up there, 8-1 to win the division. Coventry to build on last year at 12-1, maybe a little bit more value. The interesting one again, gents, that's right up there in the betting, Birmingham 7-1 to win the division. Obviously, kick us off tomorrow night, which we'll cover on tomorrow's show. But I don't think I've seen a promoted team from League One go into single digits to win the division in a good while. It'll be super competitive as always. We've obviously got the relegated teams to be up there at the top of the market, but I think Birmingham's a really interesting one. How that's been sort of banged into sevens.
And it's turned into a bit of a grudge match tomorrow night as well, Ipswich-Birmingham, because the saga surrounding Chuba Akpom, I think last time I reported, was going to join Ipswich despite a couple of offers from Birmingham. On the subject of transfers, Nicholas Jackson heavily linked with a move to Newcastle. Chelsea want as much as £80 million for him. Would that be a good signing for Newcastle?
See, well, I was going to ask you that. Seems a little bit steep to me, but it's a while since my club have been involved in £80 million transfers or anything near that. But just looking at his record, right? If Isak goes to Liverpool, which he is 1-3 to do so, Isak's had 86 games in the Premier League, 54 goals, 9 assists. Put it up next to Nicholas Jackson. A few less appearances, 65 games, 24 goals, 10 assists. there is a bit of a bit of a gap there. I'd say Jackson is 1 to 3 to go to Newcastle. Obviously depends if Isak clears off, but the numbers certainly suggest that there's a little bit of a drop off. But I don't know, fellas, do you think he can wear the number 9 shirt at Newcastle? It is a heavy one after all.
Mr. Nicholas Jackson fan club president Scott Minto is here in the studio.
No, Matt. Honestly, so in the first season, I was defending Nicholas Jackson when it seemed like I was on my own and everybody was absolutely hammering him. I saw potential. We just talked about him just a few minutes ago. About I still feel he's learning as a striker as well, and I think the Geordies. I think it would really take to him. I think if it made sense from a financial point of view, he's not worth £80 million. But if Newcastle were able to did have to sell Isak, brought in Nicholas Jackson, and still had money to maybe buy in another striker or an attacking midfielder or whatever, then I think that's decent business. Having to sell a player that they obviously don't want to sell.
Just before go on, Matt.
Is there a bit of a tax, do you think, for Premier League strikers? There are maybe proper number 9s are a little bit thin on the ground. Just looking at the numbers, some of the incomings, Ekitike 79 million, Sesko rumoured to be about 75 million, Gyökeres 70 million. We're paying a lot for number 9s these days. And I think Nicholas Jackson is not an 80 million quid player, but if Newcastle are desperate and they need a number 9, will Chelsea get the number that they want for him?
How much would Alan Shearer be worth? He went £15 million, a record at the time, to Newcastle. 200 million?
It'd be 150, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
But Matt, there's a Premier League tax anyway. You know, because the Premier League brings in so much money. There's a dearth of top class, world class number 9s as well now. So put those two together, and you are talking silly money. But look, I don't blame Chelsea for asking for 80 million. I don't blame Newcastle for saying we ain't paying anywhere near that. We'll find out what happens as we get closer towards deadline day.
Yes, we will, and we'll keep you bang up to date right here on talkSPORT. Just before we let you go, Matt, what about the odds around the FedEx St Jude Championship? That begins later today.
Yeah, it does. Scottish Scheffler, gents, I know he's really dominating the world of golf. 14 to 5 to win this week. Again, just a daft price. The next in the betting is Xander Schauffele at 16 to 1, which kind of shows the gap between Scotty and the rest. Although he is the best in the world, I think if you're having 5-10 quid each way, I don't think I could back Scotty at those sorts of prices. I'd be more interested in Xander at 16s. Ludwig Aberg, I think he's always got a fantastic performance in him at 28s, like a Matty Fitzpatrick in great form at 25s, Hovland in great form at 25s. I know there's a big gap between Scotty, but I'd be looking for value a little bit further down the field, personally.
A winner's a winner, Matt. A winner's a winner.
Better to back a 14 to 5 winner than a 16 to 1 loser. Matt, thanks for joining us. That was a look at the latest odds. All thanks to BetMGM. Visit betmgm.co.uk or download the app. 18+, begambleaware.org.
It's showtime on talkSPORT with BetMGM. Keep things golden with responsible play at betmgm.co.uk. 18+, gambleaware.org.
How's your golf, by the way? You played the other day, didn't you?
I'm hitting the ball well at the moment.
Honestly, so I've only played once with you. Is it just the once?
No, Portugal as well.
Of course, Portugal. Oh, well, we'd better not talk about that.
Throwing up on the 16th tee, yeah. Not my finest hour.
We have video footage of that as well. But honestly, you have the worst technique I've ever seen, and yet you somehow still just hit it straight, and actually post a decent score for your handicap.
And actually, I think the technique is improving slightly because I managed to get a lot more loft on the ball. So I shanked it off the tee a couple of days ago onto a different fairway, and there were trees in front of me. It was a blind shot onto the green, and I thought, well, this is not my shot at all because, I don't normally get the ball in the air. Chipped it over the trees. A few yards shy of the green. Yeah, we'll have to get out again.
What made me laugh is that you actually just did the stroke just there. Anybody watching on,
you'll know about it.
On the streaming we've just seen a little bit of your technique.
Oh dear, I'm playing with a few ex-Pompey players next week, and I looked at the handicaps. I'm on 27, and I'm playing
down to 27.
They're on 14, 12. I think Paul Walsh is playing on 10.
Oh, she?
Yeah.
Sending my best.
So, I'm sure my swing is going to be the topic of some debate. And on the subject of Tottenham, one of Paul Walsh's old clubs, of course, disappointing news coming out this lunchtime from Spurs. James Maddison is to undergo surgery for a ruptured ACL in his right knee. The injury, we're told, will rule him out for much of the coming season. Of course, he missed the Europa League final with an injury to the same knee, and it looked pretty bad, didn't it, when he went off on a stretcher during that friendly against Newcastle. That is a big blow.
That's horrendous for him personally. I'm sure he would have been looking at this season and be thinking, what a great opportunity to be mixing it with the big boys of Europe and playing in the Champions League and really proving to a new manager as well, because he didn't seem to play many games or last 90 minutes, did he, under Ange? And I'm sure he was desperate to prove himself to Thomas Frank. So, yeah, that's a massive blow for him personally, first and foremost, but the team as well.
Yeah, because obviously they wanted to sign Morgan Gibbs-White, who would have been competition with Maddison in that number 10 role. He's decided to stay at Nottingham Forest and sign a new contract. So when you look at Spurs' business now with this injury to Maddison, obviously they've got Mohamed Kudus, who's come through the door, João Paulinho coming back on loan from Bayern Munich, but the squad still looks a little bit light, doesn't it, for me?
Yeah.
You didn't mention Tottenham as one of those sides you might feel.
No, I didn't, and I thought that afterwards, and then I thought, oh, did I miss out on Spurs? Did I? Because we just don't know. Again, I think they're a bit like United, that shouldn't have been where they were last season, but were there for a reason. But I like Thomas Frank, I do, and I think he's ready for the step up. So I'm sure he'll get the best out of his players. But no, in terms of the squad, they're still far away. If we're going to be talking about, I mean, you're saying about United top 5, and whatever United are going for, I think it's going to be a little bit more difficult for Spurs because they've got Europe to deal with, but they should still be aiming for Europe. They definitely need some, James Maddison at his best, and along with other players as well. And that's a massive blow. It really is.
And more breaking news from the Premier League. West Ham have confirmed Mikel Antonio will be leaving the club. No massive surprise on that one. Obviously suffered a really horrible leg injury in a car crash last season. Has come back to play for Jamaica, and he's been playing for West Ham's under-21s as well. What do you think the future might hold for him?
I don't know. I mean, he's what, 35 now? I think Graham Potter was quite open about saying, look, we're quite happy to have him at the club, but it's going to be more in a sort of coaching role in the academy side of things. And, one thing I would say, which I think most ex-pros do, if you want to play as long as you possibly can. And the fact that he's already come back, I was worried he wouldn't even come back and start playing. The fact that he already has, I think he's got a club somewhere. He might have to be one of those, like Callum Wilson has just signed at West Ham, but pay as you play. But who cares if you've got the last few years left of your career? Go for it.
Yeah, West Ham do say that dialogue continues over Antonio's future involvement with the club in an alternative capacities. That does suggest maybe a coaching role. Back to Spurs, a big departure from Tottenham yesterday. Son completing his £20 million move to LAFC over in the States. 33 years of age now, the South Korean. He joined Tottenham for £22 million from Bayer Leverkusen back in 2015. I mean, what a servant he's been for Spurs, and what a way to bow out. I was in Bilbao, obviously saw him coming through the mix zone. Massive smile on his face, clutching that Europa League trophy. You can't always plan a perfect exit from a football club, but this is as near to it that you get, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, when you think about... And to be fair to Spurs, and I've got no allegiance at all to Spurs, but I think it's shut a few people up winning that trophy for the next few years, not just the next season, but the next few years now, because there was always that thing thrown at them that it's been 17 years since you've won a cup. But you look at Son, he's been all of that, for the last decade. He's been a massive part. He's deserved a trophy, but he hasn't got it. So for him to finish on a high in the way that he did, I know that he had the clause in his contract last year, and that was activated by the club.
Yeah, I think he was a bit disappointed.
He wanted a new contract.
Yeah, he wanted a long-term deal.
And clearly the writing was on the wall. And with respect, he wasn't quite the player. He didn't quite have the burster's pace.
No.
But still a very good professional to have around. But Daniel Levy's being Daniel Levy, isn't he? And he's still pulled off a great deal.
Yeah, absolutely. £20 million into the coffers. I mean, where do you think Son ranks in terms of Tottenham's all-time Premier League legends?
Premier League or all-time?
Premier League.
He's right up there. I mean, I wouldn't have him in front of Harry Kane.
No.
I think Harry Kane is, again, another one where it's just the stick is thrown that he doesn't win trophies. Well, again, he has now, but what a player. I'm sure Alan Shearer was delighted he went out to Germany because he was definitely going to break that Premier League record. But look, 454 appearances. He's 7th in the all-time list for Spurs. 173 goals. He's 5th in the all-time, not just Premier League list for Spurs. He's absolutely a Spurs legend. I'm not having that maybe a statue should be made for him outside the stadium. I think there's going to be a collection of them before you know it if you do something like that. But there's no doubt about it. He's right up there.
Could they not have announced his departure, bearing in mind what we said there, that the writing was on the wall when they didn't offer him a new long-term contract? Could they not have announced that he was to leave towards the end of last season so that they could have had a send-off that I think they played Brighton, didn't they, at home after they won the Europa League. If Spurs fans had known Son was leaving then, there could have been a guard of honour.
I don't think they knew. I don't think they would have known then. And I think maybe at that particular moment, Son probably thought, I'm going to be here for another year, because he'd signed another year. Maybe his people behind the scenes were like you got to do. He's telling them, like, do something. But at that particular moment, nothing was concrete. He's only just come out with it now, and we're close to the start of the season, so it must have just been in the pipeline for some time.
That he had to go and play in this tour in the Far East, because of course he was the centre of attention in that part of the world.
Yeah, but if he's going to be sold for 20 million, which is a lot of money, especially to the MLS, it's a record, then that contract may have been broken. If they knew that at the end of last season, I just don't think they did. I think by the time they knew that a deal was, like, can you just hold on, play in this game, and then we'll do it this way. And I think everyone's come out of it with a bit of class.
And in terms of his leadership role, who assumes that responsibility now as club captain? Who are the leaders in that Tottenham team that can step forward?
Who has been made club captain?
I guess Romero's the obvious one.
Well, how long's he going to be? Can you trust him? I mean, very good player, but hothead on his day. I think you're looking at Spurs, and I look at Thomas Frank, and I'm fascinated to see the difference of the style it's going to be from an Ange to a Thomas Frank. Ange, from everybody outside Spurs, you knew you were going to get a story. Simple as that, whether it be a Tottenham winning or Tottenham losing, going 2-0 up and losing, going 2-0 down and coming back. This will be a very different Spurs here now. And I think Thomas Frank will be looking for collective responsibility. We've already seen, we know what he was like at Brentford. He's such an intelligent manager. He took them up, and then he realised he couldn't play in the way they were dominating possession in the Championship. So what we're going to do? Okay, we're going to go a little bit longer. We're going to do long throws. We're going to do set pieces. We're going to do 5 at the back against the big teams. And then as they, year on year, got better and better, it was 4 at the back against the teams that they feel they could beat, 5 at the back against the teams that were still the big boys. And then last season, he kind of went for it. So, look, I think Spurs, we just talked about the squad itself. I think it is a little bit light. But I think Daniel Levy, he is probably the ultimate, I'll get the best deal for the club before I get the best deal on the pitch. And I'm just slightly concerned about where Spurs are going to be at the start of the season.
Thomas Frank actually has been speaking about the leadership qualities that Ben Davies has. And I think now that Son has left, he's the oldest player at 32 in the Tottenham squad. It does suggest that maybe they've not made a decision as to who will get the armband. I get your point about Romero, but I think he probably will stay now. Van der Ven, another option.
Yeah, I like him. But again, he has his injury problems, doesn't he? And it's interesting, Ben Davies, probably a year or so ago, looked like he was going to be leaving the club at some point. But actually, whenever he plays, he gives a really solid performance. And again, I always talk about the importance of characters in the dressing room. Talk about Jordan Henderson and, how is he in the England squad? You can't underestimate the importance of the player, a senior player in the dressing room. And not just in a training facility, but off the pitch as well. So someone like Ben Davies, I think, is a very good pro. And Thomas Frank, in his first season, where he knows there's going to be pressure on him, if they don't start the season well and lose the first couple of Champions League games, people are going to be absolutely on him big time. So he wants to keep his senior pros and the ones who would ever, even if things aren't going well, will be absolutely fine and keep the young lads on a even keel.
You're listening to Crook and Minto on talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. Check out this month's real deals at selcobw.com. Next up, we'll be taking a look at the 100 with the cricket tournament's days rumoured to be numbered. You're listening to talkSPORT on this Thursday morning. I'm Alex Crook. Scott Minto, former Chelsea, Benfica and West Ham left-back, is alongside me. We're going to be talking cricket in just a few moments with suggestions the 100 could be changed to a 2020 competition as soon as next year. A bit of breaking news from the world of transfer, though. Such a busy window so far, particularly in terms of outgoings down at Bournemouth. They've already sold Milos Kerkez to Liverpool and Dean Howson to Real Madrid. Looks like Elias Zabani will be the latest exit from the Vitality Stadium. talkSPORT understands Paris Saint-Germain, the European champions no less, closing in on a deal for Zabani. They've agreed a fee of £63 million. That's fixed. Currently, add-ons are being discussed. Looks like Zabani will be destined for the French capital. Tottenham have shown some interest as well. Do you have concerns for Bournemouth if three of their first-choice back four and the goalkeeper Kepa Arrizabalaga have departed from last season?
It's a great move, though, isn't it? I mean, Howson to Real Madrid and now Zabani to PSG. Some fantastic moves there. Yes, I do. And I think they're very clever there as well. But I think in Iraola, they got such a good manager that he'll find a way. You know, the thing is, it's such a unique style, isn't it? And you need time to work on it to know it's almost chaotic pressing. And the players coming in will need to be able to have a bit of time. But no, I think he's such a good manager that by the end of the season, there won't be a problem at all.
You think they'll be fine?
Yeah, absolutely.
And listen, I'm old enough to remember when I first started out in journalism 2 decades ago, I covered Bournemouth and they were playing, I remember it vividly, Dagenham and Redbridge in League Two. It was a 0-0 draw on a Tuesday night early in the season, and Dagenham and Redbridge celebrated like they won the FA Cup.
Yeah.
And now they're selling players to Real Madrid, Liverpool and Paris Saint-Germain.
Do you know what? I remember doing a bit of Soccer Saturday, actually, when they were in League Two, and it was the season where they could have gone out of existence, not just the EFL. So the job that whole club has done, the journey that they've been on, Eddie Howe still playing a massive part in that. Bournemouth fans must be pinching themselves, surely.
Yeah, absolutely. But
they should do.
Yeah, you always get some who become a bit spoiled, don't you? And maybe more on that later. Let's bring in Matt Hughes then, and this article that he's written for The Guardian suggesting that the 100, which only started yesterday, watched the end of the Southern Braves' dramatic victory, could be replaced by a 2020 competition as soon as next year. Matt, can you just bring us the basic details on this one?
Yeah, of course, Good morning, guys. As you will have been aware, the 100's changed in theory this year. There's been huge investment from private individuals for the first time. £500 million has been put into the competition, and I think basically most of these new investors want to turn it into a T20, which is the global short form of cricket. It had been thought that they'd have to wait until 2028, which is when the TV contract with Sky is up. But it now seems that Sky Sports, who are ECB's main broadcast partners, may be willing to flex and go with the T20 for next season, which would be a big change given they've pumped so much money into launching this new and unique format.
Matt, how's it seen, the 100? How's it come across? Has it been seen as a success?
It has been it's been a success in terms of bringing in new spectators, a different, younger audience to grounds, and it's been a spectacular success financially. ECB ran an auction with American Bank, the Rain Group, who sold Manchester United and Chelsea, big players in the world of sports finance this year, and they've brought in £520 million, selling half of the 8 franchises, which might not be a lot of money in football, but in cricket it's vast and unforeseen riches, which should keep the counties going for about 20 or 30 years. So it's been a huge success financially. What they need to do now is sort of bring cricket fans with it and sort of unite the audience, really.
And how do you see the competition changing then moving forward, and this investment as well? What happens to that?
Well, as is often the case in sport, a lot of it will go straight to the players. At the moment, they run a very strict salary cap, and each squad can spend the same amount, and they have 3 players at different salary bands. The top one, I think, is £200,000, which is good money for playing 8 cricket matches, 25 grand a game. But they want to increase that significantly. They want to treble that in the next few years, with the hope of getting more big name players here. We saw Dave Warner playing for London Spirit on Tuesday night in the first game, the talkative Australian batsman. But there aren't that many stars really from Australia, none from India, and they want to change that by using some of the money that's been brought into the competition to attract better players.
So that's it then, because my initial question was going to be, if it has been a success, why are they looking to change?
They're looking to change because the 100 is only played in England, and it's not even particularly played widely in England. It's a bit of an anomaly, and it was done really as a sort of marketing gimmick to try and attract a younger crowd to the grounds, and to an extent it's worked. Now the 8 franchises are part owned by, in some cases fully owned by overseas investment. Half of them are from India. T20 is the format they play in India, all over the world. It makes sense to unite the sport, really.
It's funny because I know people who are, big lovers of Test cricket and county championships, and equally I know a lot of younger cricket fans and kids who really like the short form of the game, the T20 and the 100. Our own Sam Matterface, I know, got really into taking his young son to go and watch games at Old Trafford last season. I was watching on television last night. It was at Old Trafford. It was full. So is there not an argument that this 100 does still have a role to play and has been a success in some ways in terms of attracting a new audience?
No, it definitely has a role to play. And I think the ECB would say that not that much will change. It's an extra 20 balls per innings. I think they'll actually still call it the 100. So from a sort of branding and marketing point of view, nothing will change. All will change is they'll go back to the traditional 6 ball overs rather than this slightly anomalous sets of 5 that we've seen in the 100 competition. And it will obviously be a little bit longer, which may frustrate some of the broadcasters, particularly BBC, who carry 10 games, and they've obviously got tight schedules and want to squeeze it in. But in terms of the essence of the competition, it shouldn't change too much. There are other things they can do to try and hurry it along, speed it along. You could have 2 overs from one end rather than rotating. That's often what we do in recreational cricket as the light gets darker in the end of the summer. So I don't think it'll change other than the actual format.
Brilliant, Matt. Thanks very much for joining us and bring us bang up to date there on the changes that are to come for the 100. And it sounds like changes to come in the imminent future as well. Coming up in the final hour of the programme, we're going to be looking at the return of the Championship live on talkSPORT tomorrow night.
For every good signing a club makes, there's bound to be a few that don't work out. And Man United have certainly had their fair share of those, especially since the end of their golden age under Sir Alex Ferguson. Here are just some of the Red Devils' worst signings since Fergie. First up, Alexis Sanchez. Sanchez joined United from Arsenal back in 2018 and became the highest paid player in the Prem. He'd averaged almost 1 goal every 2 games for the Gunners, but in his 45 games for Man United, he only managed 5 goals. Not what you want from a star striker. Next up, Radamel Falcao. He earned himself the nickname the Tiger for his sheer efficiency and the way he used to pounce upon the mistakes of defenders. But at Man United, he was way more pussycat than Tiger, to be honest. All he managed in 29 Man United games was 4 goals. Moving on, things couldn't have gone much worse for Jadon Sancho at Man United. Yeah, it would have been hard to outdo his Borussia Dortmund form, but 12 goals in 83 games is not great. Things got worse after a public fallout with manager Erik ten Hag. Sancho said he was being made a scapegoat. Ten Hag said there'd been a discipline issue. It all ended up with Sancho going back to Germany. Next, Erik ten Hag probably thought he was being smart in sticking to what he knew when he signed Antony from his former club Ajax. But the £86 million Brazilian hasn't really been able to hack it in the Prem. Chances are Antony's Man United days are numbered. Next, the curse of the Man United number 7 shirt. Not an easy act following Ronaldo, Cantona, Beckham and George Best, but Memphis Depay was another striker who was apparently allergic to scoring for United. He scored just 7 in 53 appearances, a huge letdown since he'd helped PSV win the Dutch league just a season before joining. Last one, Angel Di Maria was set to be United's landmark signing when he joined in 2014, but 1 season later he was already on his way out. 4 goals in 32 games was just not good enough, given he'd broken the British record transfer fee when he signed. And those are just a few examples. To be honest, the list could go on and on. Unfortunately, that's probably why Man United haven't won the Prem for a while, and why it might take a few more years before they're in contention again.
You're listening to Crook and Minto on talkSPORT, building up to the start of the Championship season, live tomorrow night, right here on talkSPORT as Ipswich take on Birmingham. What's become a bit of a grudge match following the saga over Chuba Akpom's future. Before we get into that, bit of breaking transfer news, more breaking transfer news for you. This comes via my talkSPORT colleague Ben Jacobs, who reports exclusively that Chelsea have now opened initial talks to sign Alejandro Garnacho from Manchester United. Garnacho is seen as a left-wing target, and therefore the deal is separate to the club's ongoing pursuit of RB Leipzig's Xavi Simons. The Argentine winger is keen to make the move to Stamford Bridge, we understand. And of course, there is a relationship between the two clubs after Jadon Sancho moved on loan from Manchester United last season. Scott, I'm going to be fascinated if this deal goes through, and I expect it to. I know Paul Winstanley, one of the 2 sporting directors there, has really been pushing for Garnacho's signature to see what the transfer fee will end up at. Because in January, when we first heard whispers that Manchester United were willing to cash in on Garnacho, they were asking for as much as £60 million. He obviously had a fallout with Ruben Amorim. In the wake of that Europa League final defeat in Bilbao, he was told by the manager in front of his own teammates, you need to go and get yourself a move. You better hope you get a move, I think was the expression. That clearly brings the value down, doesn't it?
Well, clearly, I think whether he said it or not, I think everyone would have known that United would have wanted him out. So, I mean, we know that Chelsea are good negotiators, or certainly got the best accountant in world football. I'm not quite sure United are still brilliant negotiators. If Brian Mbeumo, who I like as a player, basically said, I'm not signing for anyone else because United are offering me 250 grand a week. But look, the bottom line is they want him out. Chelsea will find a way to try and do it. And again, it's like anything. It's as mind sharpen as you get towards that transfer deadline day. But the fact it's happening now and there's still plenty of time ahead of that shows that Chelsea want to try and do business by the start of the season. And look,
is he a good signing for Chelsea?
It seems crazy to say with the amount of players that Chelsea, one, have bought and two, have, and even the wide play or attacking players that they've got. But I went through their players, and in terms of the attacking players, Cole Palmer for sure, Pedro Neto for sure, and actually, there's no Mudryk for now. Jadon Sancho's gone back. Madueke, who I really liked, has now gone. So you're looking at Gittins, Santos, Nkunku looking to go. Tyreek George is a youngster. Actually, in terms of strength in depth, Chelsea don't really have that in the attacking midfield role. And then Pedro Neto's perfect on the right. Cole Palmer's perfect as a 10. I think Garnacho, in theory, would be perfect on the left. And I think...
What about his attitude?
I'd like to think there'd be, I'd like to think there'd be a complete change of attitude once he leaves United. And again, it might tell us more about the United culture if he does go and sign for Chelsea and do well. But as crazy as it sounds, I think Chelsea could do with a left winger.
There you go, Chelsea opening talks with Manchester United over a move for Alejandro Garnacho, one of the 4 members of the so-called bomb squad that United are looking to offload this summer. I don't like his attitude. Yeah, I think he's.
I don't like his attitude either.
I think he's got a lot of raw ability. I don't think he's quite as good as maybe he's been made out to be, or as good as he thinks he is in his own head. I think
most aren't.
He thinks he's Ronaldo 2.0, and I think if you look at his numbers in the second half of last season in terms of goal and assists, they weren't great.
No, but he's one of the few players that United have had that you think actually he could turn a game.
He excites fans.
Yeah,
he runs at people. He's got that pace, but needs to work on his finishing.
I think he could do well at Chelsea. I don't like his attitude. I'm 100% with you on that, but I think he could do well.
We shall see. One other bit of breaking transfer news. Burnley have confirmed the signing of Martin Dubravka, goalkeeper from Newcastle, on a 1-year contract. He will, of course, replace James Trafford, who's gone back to Manchester City. Now, the Championship gets underway live on talkSPORT tomorrow night, 8 o'clock kickoff, Birmingham against Ipswich. Let's hear from the Birmingham manager, Chris Davis, who ahead of the Blues' return to the Championship has been speaking to our reporter Tom Ross, and he discussed this opening game of the season.
For me, it was all about being a home game. That was the key. I wasn't too bothered about anyone as long as it was home, because I know what it's going to be like at St Andrews, and it's going to be rocking. And we need to really, capture that, capitalise on that. Ipswich, I do think, are the favourites for the league. Having watched them a lot in the last few weeks, they've got the continuity, the same manager and coaching staff, a very clear way of playing. They've been successful previously. They competed reasonably well in the Premier League to an extent, and I think they've got some really strong players. So for us, is the biggest test to start.
That's the Birmingham manager Chris Davis speaking about their game. Championship opener against Ipswich live on talkSPORT tomorrow. We heard during the betting odds earlier that there's been a bit of money around for Birmingham to go back-to-back, and it has been done before. They've brought Damari Gray back to the club from Saudi Arabia. Tommy Doyle has arrived on loan from Wolves, looks a decent signing. James Beadle, a goalkeeper on loan from Brighton. I know they rate highly. Do you think they're going to be right up there amongst the promotion candidates?
I don't think they're going to be automatic, but I do think they've got a great chance of sneaking into the playoffs. But you know what? We said that about Ipswich a couple of seasons ago when they went up, and look what happened there. So you never know. I mean, look, everyone talks about Wrexham, or Wrexham's kind of like, obviously got this kind of sexy owners. Well, they're pretty sexy, really, when it comes to the Birmingham ones as well. They've got money. They're willing to spend. They spend big in League One, and they should have won the title in the way that they did. But still, what Chris Davis did, it's one thing having all those tools and trying to get them all together is a completely different thing. And they spent so much money. They had so many. I mean, Alfie May left Charlton and hardly got a game, and now he's gone. So it was all about trying to get out of the division. I just think he's a really good young manager, just what they need. Do I see them getting into the top 2? No, I don't. But I think they'll make a fist of it tomorrow night. And also, I think they'll be there or thereabouts come the playoffs.
How do you think this Chuba Akpom saga is going to change the atmosphere tomorrow night? Because for anyone who didn't know, we reported on Sunday morning that Birmingham had agreed a loan deal with Ajax with a £7 million obligation if Birmingham went straight up again. Then we heard that Middlesbrough were trying to hijack it, his former club. He turned them down. Monday morning, a medical is booked at Birmingham. Ipswich come in. All of a sudden, he diverts. He undergoes a medical at Ipswich. Then Birmingham try and come in again to sign him permanently and not on loan, but he's turned that down. He is now going to Ipswich. And presumably, if he gets signed in time, he could even make his debut in this match. I mean, that does add a new dynamic, doesn't it?
So when we speak, when you and Sam especially get together, obviously you act like you've been a Premier League footballer. And I want to ask you what you would do in that situation if a club looked like you're going to sign, but then a perceived better club with a better chance of going up.
You take the better offer.
Absolutely. So we can't necessarily have a go at the player for doing what he's done. I think from a player's point of view, on both sides of the pitch, they realise that's business. From a fan's point of view, then the Birmingham fans, and I completely get it, will not be happy to watch this happen. So every time he does touch the ball, if he does play, he is going to get booed like anything. And there will be a little bit of an atmosphere, even more so because of it. But, you know, I think the good players are able to put that to one side and we'll be able to deal with it.
That's Friday night. Saturday lunchtime, we've got Southampton against Wrexham, the Hollywood boys in town at St Mary's. That's live on talkSPORT. After Southampton's recent 2-2 draw against Brighton, I spoke to their new boss, Will Still, and got his thoughts on the season ahead.
I can't wait, to be honest. I can't wait. I think the first game this morning and that second half shows who we want to be, how we want to play and what direction we're going in. I think the fans can sort of identify to that as well. But yeah, friendlies are good fun, but I can't wait for the competition to actually start. I wanted to challenge myself. I want to challenge the people within the club. So yeah, hopefully we can sort of kick on from this performance or this day and build into a really good season.
That's Will Steele, the Southampton manager. We will hear from his Wrexham counterpart, Phil Parkinson, between now and 1 o'clock as well. He's going to join us live. It's a fascinating appointment, isn't it, Will Steele? Because he learnt his trade, by all accounts, playing Championship manager. He's obviously done really well over in France. I think he's been desperate to get the opportunity to prove himself on English soil. They are second favourites for promotion, Southampton. How do you think he'll do?
Yeah, look, he was a video analyst for a few years, wasn't he? But clearly he could show. I mean, Jose Mourinho was a translator. So and look what happened to him. I'm not trying to say that he can go on and do what Jose Mourinho's done. But look, he's the youngest manager in the EFL. He, at Lens, did really well, finished 8th with wasn't a big budget at all, had the most clean sheets in the division that particular season. So he'll make his defences solid. I'm just interested to see, and a bit like Leicester, really. Such a bad season last season. I mean, even more so for Southampton, obviously. But such a bad season. How will the new managers come in and deal with it? Because on paper, they've got players that still should be good enough to get back up into the Premier League when you think about what the rest of the Championship is. But in terms of the mindset, and again, I don't think people quite realise, when you've had such a bad season the season before, it doesn't take long to just a couple of bad games and suddenly you feel like you're there again. And suddenly in the Championship, that shouldn't be happening. You should be winning games, not losing games. But I think he's a really good coach. They've lost a lot of players, and I think some of them are very good. Kyle Walker-Peters for one, Bednarek, obviously Ramsdale as well. They've only brought 2 players in. Damien Downs is a young American striker and Joshua Kwasi, who's a big centre-half. I still think they need a few more players, but I would imagine they'd still be up there. It's difficult for me to say they'd be finishing top 2. I've no idea who's going to get that second spot, but 100% I do believe Ipswich will do it.
Yeah, I think we're all on the same page when it comes to Ipswich. talkSPORT 2, your home of the EFL. Once again this season, you are listening to Crook and Minto on talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse, to where the trade go. And up next, we'll be looking at whether Jack Grealish can kickstart his Manchester City career away from City at Everton. listening to Alex Crook and Scott Minto on talkSPORT, 20 past 12 on this Thursday afternoon. Lots of breaking transfer news already throughout the morning that we brought you, including Chelsea opening talks with Manchester United over their winger Alejandro Garnacho. PSG closing in on a deal for Bournemouth defender Ilya Zabani, James Maddison cruelly being ruled out for most of the season with an ACL injury. What of Jack Grealish then? Left out of Manchester City's final Premier League game of last season, left out entirely at the Club World Cup and left on the bench for the FA Cup final. Looks like his future lies elsewhere. Could it lie at Everton? Well, they are in talks with Manchester City over a potential loan deal. The stumbling block, as I understand it, is that Manchester City want all of Grealish's wages in the region of £300,000 a week covered by the loaning club. Would that be a big financial undertaking for Everton based on Grealish's form last season, Scott Minto?
Listen, unless he was in that treble-winning form, then Pep wouldn't want him to go. Everton are not going to pay £300,000 a week. You know, again, we're in negotiations here, and we're going to wait and see what happens. But I'm pretty sure whether it be David Moyes, and it looks like David Moyes has a bit more control than your typical manager at a club, and I think that's a really good thing, especially with him going back there and the success and experience that he's got. But I'm pretty sure, I can't speak on behalf of him, but £300,000 a week to play for Everton, that's a lot of money. So I'd be very surprised whether Jack will actually say, do you know what, I'll drop some wages because I want to play.
Do you think that's what City are trying to force?
Yeah, I think they're trying to force something. And again, I don't blame them, like we said earlier, about what United are willing to pay, what Chelsea are willing to pay, what Newcastle are willing to pay or ask for. We're at this stage where you still try and ask for as much as possible. You're in the middle of negotiations. But it's how desperate is a club? Who's going to blink first? And look, for me, I think we all just want to see Jack playing again, don't we? So I hope it's sorted. I think City, I can't say should, because they're obligated to do whatever they want to do. But I'd like to see them dropping it. I'd like to see Jack dropping it. I'd almost like to see both of them together saying, let's make this happen. Because you're a good player. We respect you. I'm a good player. I want to play. I want to be in the England squad for the World Cup next year. I need to be playing regularly.
And in terms of Everton, what would it bring for them in terms of the player that they're going to get? Because David Moyes has been bemoaning the fact that maybe they've not done as much business as he would have liked. They changed that a little bit this week with Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall.
Yeah, that's a good
coming
sign.
In. What version of Jack Grealish are they going to get? I've seen pictures of him training on his own this summer. He looks in good shape.
Yeah, and he does that, to be fair. I've seen it before in previous seasons, and he does look good. He does look sharp. And I think he's just crying out for an opportunity. And I kind of get it. I never really saw, even though he did do well in that treble-winning season, I never really saw Jack Grealish as a Pep Guardiola Manchester City player. So I'm not 100% surprised that he's, looking out for another club or Manchester City is saying that. But he has to play. He's not playing. So what kind of Jack Grealish will you get? Well, I think, one, you get a motivated one. One, because he hasn't been playing. But two, because he wants to be in that World Cup squad. I think you've got David Moyes, who will... I think there's a bit of a misconception that he's a very dour manager and wants to make sure that everything's very rigid. Actually, he's quite happy to have the flair players and let them do their thing as well. He just wants to make sure they're very solid defensively and they defend as a team. And that's something which I think Jack Grealish is able to do. Just get him as a 10. That's where I like to see him. That's in the centre of the park. He can choose what he wants to do. Get a couple of players around him to protect the position that he plays as well. So he doesn't always have to come back, although he still has to have those defensive responsibilities, but play him in the middle of the park and say, once you get the ball in that final third, do what you want to do.
And how do you see Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall doing there? Because it was the wrong move for me to go to Chelsea. He had a medical at Brighton. Chelsea came in and hijacked the deal this time last year, barely played in the Premier League, obviously got a lot of minutes in the Conference League. If he had his time again, do you think he might have gone to Brighton and not Chelsea?
I don't know. When you look at what he's done within the year, yes, in terms of minutes, he's not had the minutes that he wanted. What has he done? He's got a Europa Conference League medal. He's got a Club Winners' Cup medal. And he's played a part off the pitch, perhaps a little bit more than on the pitch, of helping Chelsea get towards a Champions League. And he's also just learned a lot within the last year. With the greatest respect being at Leicester, massive step up going to Chelsea, and he would have learned what it's like to play for a big club. So I don't know. Why Brentford not Brighton not interested this time around?
Well, I think they've gone on to fill that position with the likes of Matt O'Reilly, for example. So yeah, I think that ship has probably sailed.
But if you want to try and build a team that's going for Europe, you need quality players. And
you do think he's top quality?
I don't think he's top quality, but I think he'll be a good signing. He'll be a very good signing. And I think in the last year, I understand what you're saying in terms of minutes, but he would have learned a lot as how to be a top professional. And that he can take forward. And I think he'd be a really good signing for Everton, I do.
Just going back to Manchester City, obviously we expect Grealish to leave. I'm told that he's actually resigned himself to the fact that his City career is over. What about Phil Foden? Because he was another England international that had a really underwhelming campaign last year by his standards. Was a bit better actually in the final game of the season against Fulham. Some quotes from him coming out this week. So I'm not sure where the manager sees me this year. I can play in different positions. We all know my position is the insides in the pocket, so let's see what happens. It is about trying my best, getting to the level where I won Player of the Year. I want to get back to that. How does he get back to that? Because it was quite a dramatic fall from grace, wasn't it, last season?
Dramatic. And I think following a major tournament in the summer, there's a lot of players, and not just English players, but foreign players as well, that mentally, psychologically, as well as physically, even if you haven't had a lot of minutes, you're still carrying on training, you're giving your all. You're going into the pressure situations, getting ready for playing for your country, whether you actually end up doing or whether you don't. And Phil Foden, for me, it's a massive conundrum. I mean, when you think about the season he had 2 seasons ago, he was sensational, wasn't he? The goals, the assists, the confidence, the little flicks and tricks, but he was effective with it as well. The drop-off to last season, for me, that's more than just physical, that's mental. And we don't know what's gone on behind the scenes. We don't know. I mean, it's interesting what Thomas Tuchel said about that Jude Bellingham can be very intimidating to his teammates. Was he thinking about Phil Foden as one of them?
Really?
I don't know. But for me, Phil Foden absolutely has to try and get back. That's the aim, to try and get back where you're Player of the Year, not just for your club, but also for the Premier League. As big a drop as it was, it's going to be a big jump to go back up there again. And he's got to be playing in his right position. Whether he will or whether he won't, we'll have to wait and see. Can he be trusted as that almost one of those eights defensively? That's my question.
Well, in those quotes, he's sort of telling Pep Guardiola where he wants to play.
Well, he is. But I've been told from should we say, an extremely good source who was in the England camp at the time that in terms of as a pure eight, they didn't trust him defensively. And I think Manchester City probably over the last couple of years, the data will show that actually he's been playing more wides coming in rather than being one of those guaranteed central midfielders.
Well, Manchester City kick off their Premier League campaign next Saturday, tea time. They go to Wolverhampton Wanderers, of course, looking to try and get their title back from Liverpool. Liverpool against Bournemouth is our season opener in the Premier League next Friday night, 8 o'clock, live and exclusive right here on talkSPORT. But before that, we've got the Community Shield live from Wembley on Sunday, the traditional curtain raiser to the Premier League season, and we're going to be diving into that next.
over the last few years, Formula One has gone from elitist and insular to a global entertainment brand. The transformation's down to American investment group Liberty Media, who cultivated a new image for the sport since buying it in 2016. Better access to drivers, improved content on social media, and tapping into the US market have given F1 a massive boost in both attention and revenues. But is everyone happy? The fans certainly are, as evidenced by Drive to Survive. Almost 7 million people per season have tuned in to get all the gossip and all the drama from the paddock. The extra exposure means the drivers can demand a higher salary too. In 2010, the top drivers were earning $20 million a year, which isn't bad. But now, the very best earn 3 times that, with Max Verstappen getting a whopping $65 million in 2025. But money doesn't always buy happiness. Some drivers, including Verstappen, don't like the pageantry the changes have brought about. In Las Vegas in 2023, Verstappen said the drivers were made to look like clowns, and the event was 99% performance and 1% race. Some purists who still watch the sport feel the same, and that the spirit of competition has suffered. But Formula One and Liberty Media don't look like slowing down anytime soon. So expect more races, major events and exclusive access in future.
This is Alex Crook and Scott Minto on talkSPORT. Coming up in the final half an hour of the programme, we'll be joined by the Wrexham manager Phil Parkinson ahead of their championship opener against Southampton live on talkSPORT this Saturday lunchtime. Next Saturday, The Zone will bring you 5 huge fights in one night as unbeaten rising star Moses Atoma takes on the proven and dangerous Dillian White in a heavyweight showdown, plus action from Nick Bull, David Adelaide, Raymond Ford and Filip Hrgovic. Don't miss it next Saturday, August the 16th, and you can watch it only on DAZN.
Boxing update on talkSPORT with DAZN, the global home of boxing. Buy now at dazn.com/boxing.
And don't forget that card next Saturday will also be available on the talkSPORT network and the talkSPORT Boxing YouTube channel as well. Now, this Sunday, we are at Wembley as Liverpool, the Premier League champions, take on FA Cup winners from last season, Crystal Palace. In the Community Shield, Adrian Durham will be your host. Commentary from Sam Matterface and the former England striker Dean Ashton. Liverpool, of course, have been very busy in the transfer market this summer. It'll be the first opportunity for a lot of us to get a look at Florian Wirtz in the colours of the champions. They've signed Milos Kerkez as well, Jeremy Frimpong, and, of course, Ugo Ekitike. How big a game is the Community Shield, Scott? How important will it be for Liverpool in terms of making an early statement with their new signings, or is it just another step on the road to the big Premier League kickoff?
Yeah, look, it's not going to determine whether Liverpool win the title or not. It's too early for that. I think it's a great opportunity to make a statement, but that's all it is, really. Look, I know Jose Mourinho always included it as a trophy. I think
so does Mikel Arteta.
Well, yes, that's true. Yeah. Listen, it is a trophy. It's not a major trophy, but it is a trophy. And what you want to try and do is try and get that winning culture inside you. And look, I know that Pep's won and lost Community Shields and still gone on to win the title. So in that sense, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. But I just think you want to try and gel as much as possible. We go back to what we were talking about at the start of the show, whether pre-season's important or not. It still is a pre-season game, really. But it's a very, 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 very glorified pre-season game with a trophy at the end of it. And I think if you're Crystal Palace, you've just won your first major trophy in your history. Why not try and go and win another one within a couple of months? In terms of Liverpool, they do look strong, don't they? And, what he did last season on his slot coming in, I think is still underestimated. And I hear people sort of say, they weren't, I think you're one of them, they weren't particularly sort of brilliant last season.
I didn't think they were a great team compared to the likes of the United team that won the treble, the Chelsea team under Mourinho, Arsenal's invincibles. Now, if they go and retain the title, then maybe that narrative
within
will
a year, Crookie, and with Arne Slot coming in and taking over what is one of, and when you think about the history of Liverpool, one of Liverpool's most charismatic managers. He's right up there. He really was, and obviously without doubt in the Premier League era. To do what he did when they spent next to nothing, Chiesa, the only guy coming in, is nothing short of sensational. I mean, to talk about, you got to start now saying, within my first season, not only do I win the Premier League title, but I've got to be a great, and the team's got to be great. No. That was sensational in itself. And then what have they done now? You just mentioned the players that they've brought in as well. And who knows, it could be Alexander Isak on top of that.
Do we all give up and go home if that happens? Does that absolutely cement Liverpool as champions, not just for next season, but probably the season after that as well?
No. I think City will come back. And I jumped the gun a little bit in the Club World Cup. I did the game for talkSPORT against Juventus, where they were sensational. If they needed to score 6 or 7, they would have done. And I thought they're back. And then what happens?
They lost to Al Nassr.
The very next game, they go and lose to what is more worryingly similar ways than they lost in the Premier League last season. There's sort of the counter-attack, the transition. But I do like City's players. I think they're very, very good. And if Pep can stop that problem on the transition, that almost lack of pace that they don't seem to keep up with these counter-attacking sides, they'll be right up there. We'll see what Gyökeres does with Arsenal. So I don't think we can turn around and say, and we should never turn around and say, well, the season's done. All you can say is, if you're a Liverpool fan, I mentioned earlier I was as a kid. I want to say I'm not now and wasn't from the moment I went into the Charlton first team. But if you are a Liverpool fan, then I think you should be very, very confident what your team's just done, because they've not only spent a lot of money, they've spent it very wisely.
Let's get a Crystal Palace perspective on the Community Shield. Adam Wharton, Eagles midfielder, has spoken exclusively to our own Gabby Agbonlahor about how this weekend's game is a good opportunity to set up his side's campaign.
Another great opportunity, chance to win another trophy, which would be amazing. And yeah, it's against obviously a top opposition in Liverpool. So for us, we want to start the season strong. This is our first game, so we're just sort of building up and getting ready to start the season strong, and hopefully show everyone that we're not content with what we achieved last year, and we want more.
Here you go, Adam Wharton speaking to Gabby Agbonlahor ahead of the Community Shield live on talkSPORT on Sunday. Anyone watching on connected TV or on YouTube would have seen there a lot of images of Adam Wharton in various England training kits. Has it been a surprise to you, Scott, that he's been overlooked so far by Thomas Tuchel? Because I think he can be an absolute superstar.
Yes, he can. And you know what he does, which not a lot of current-day midfielders do, is that he looks up and he passes forward. He's not afraid to go for that sort of pass that actually may or may not come off. I'm just not 100. I mean, first of all, he had the injury last season, didn't he? And then it took a bit of time for him to get back up to fitness. But I was at a game there after his injury. And his first touch, his awareness, his ability to know what he wanted to do before he even received the ball, which is what the top players do.
Was that the Villa game that we did together, wasn't it?
No, I think it was later on in the season than that, yeah.
It was brilliant.
They hammered Villa, didn't they? Especially in the second half. But, the top players play, it looks like everything's in slow motion. That's what top players do. They make it look like they're playing at their level. And yet that there's almost machines running up and down as quickly as possible. And he just plays it in his gear because he's got that ability, one, to know what to do before he gets the ball, two, the ability to pass. I do slightly worry, though. I know that Thomas Tuchel has said that England, when he was asked about sort of what player would you have to make turn to be English, he said Rodri. And I know he thinks there's a problem with those sort of holding midfielders. Adam Wharton should be one of those to come straight in, but I'm slightly concerned that he perhaps is not overly keen on him. So he's going to have a good season if he wants to get in the World Cup squad, but he's certainly got the ability.
Just on the Community Shield, you look at Spain and Italy's versions of this competition, this showpiece game. They've both been played in Saudi Arabia. Do you see a situation? We keep getting talk about the 39th game in America, which I know Premier League clubs have rallied against, but there are 11 American owners now in the Premier League. Do you think this is a fixture that could be vulnerable to being taken overseas?
Look, first and foremost, I don't think any Premier League game should ever go outside of England. You know, it's still the English Premier League, so let's try and keep it that way. But I think in terms of the Community Shield, we just talked about it being a glorified friendly, but with an edge to it, because you have got a trophy, something to win at the end of the 90 minutes or penalties. I think it'd be a great shout. You know, yeah, I know they do it in Italy. I know they do it in Spain, and they're desperately trying to catch up to the Premier League in terms of the attraction.
But why do we need to do it? Why do we need to do that?
We don't need to. But what do you lose? My question.
You lose tradition.
No, I would say you lose something if you're in the Premier League and someone loses a home game if you're going to play abroad. I don't think you lose.
This is the traditional season opener.
Yeah.
To our top flight season.
Yeah.
At Wembley.
Right.
A chance for fans in this country maybe wouldn't always get the opportunity to watch their team, certainly not at Wembley, because obviously tickets for the Community Shield are much more easily obtainable than, say, the FA Cup final. And taking it away from them.
And to be fair, in this instance, Crystal Palace fans as well, who every time
even Liverpool fans who might not get the opportunity to go to Anfield because tickets are in short supply there.
I think if you got a chance to go, if you're talking about Liverpool, you've got how many? 19 home games in a season. Plus, you've got. And I know there's a waiting list there, but I think if they are going to do it from whatever point of view, in terms of, you know, the Premier League is already global and that, but it is something different, then that would be my game to do it. Listen, I'm not trying to promote that they should. I'm just saying if they did it, I wouldn't have a problem with it. My biggest issue is it doesn't then go into the Premier League. Premier League should always stay within England and all those games. But look, I'm with you. Keep it at Wembley. But I honestly don't have a problem if it does go abroad. Whether it's Saudi, whether it's the States, I don't care if there's 20 American owners in the Premier League. That doesn't mean to say it should go to
They
the
don't
States.
own our game.
Exactly. But in terms of this, it is a glorified friendly. I understand what you're saying about tradition. I don't have a problem with that. I would with the Premier League.
Or the traditional curtain raiser for the new season, live from Wembley, where it should stay, will be on talkSPORT this Sunday, 3 o'clock kickoff. You're listening to Crook and Minto on talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. Check out this month's real deals at selcobw.com. Next up, we'll be speaking live to the Wrexham manager, Phil Parkinson.
Johnson plays it through. Smolix is onside. Smolix hits it through the legs of Edison, and it's in. What a start for Ipswich Town.
It's going to be tough. I think we're going to be, made to work for every single point.
Goes right to Harmer into the penalty area, shooting and scoring. A lightning break from Sheffield United.
Wrexham able to build from that. Ollie Rathbone, edge of the area, right-footed shot, and a screamer to open the scoring, and the racecourse crowd.
Good ball inside the area, and Stansfield does it again. And Birmingham City have turned this around, and they lead.
Well, I want these players to know they have all the support they need for them to go out there and accomplish their goals.
And then Downs! And Flynn Downs has driven in the equaliser, and Southampton have come up with the equalising goal. Gets the cross in left-footed, Radoni! Coventry lead! Comes back to Ayew, hits it well! Hits it into the bottom corner! 2-0 to Leicester City.
Yeah, there's nothing like the start of a new championship season to really get the juices flowing. Some big games across the weekend right here on talkSPORT. All gets underway on Friday night as Ipswich take on newly promoted Birmingham. Saturday, 12:30, we're at St Mary, Southampton against Wrexham. Hopefully Phil Parkinson will join us very shortly. That's live on talkSPORT, on talkSPORT 2 at the same time. We've got Coventry against Hull. Charlton, one of Scott Minto's former clubs, also in action at 12:30 on Saturday as they take on Watford. Watford, who've brought in a lot of players over the course of the summer. And the Charlton captain, Greg Docherty, believes his side aren't back in the Championship just to make up the numbers, having won promotion last season.
The manager was saying a couple of things as well in terms of we're not here to just, he wants to compete. He's a manager that wants to do well, that's got a good track record. Us as a squad, we all believe in the project here. I think, we knew players that signed recently knew how big a club it was, but not really until we went the playoffs. We saw like the invasion in the pitch after it, the fans at Wembley, like how big this club actually is. And we want to compete, we want to push forward. We're realistic. We're not, sleepwalking into the Championship thinking, it's going to be similar to last year. We might not win as many games, but we want to do well.
That's Greg Docherty, the Charlton captain, speaking to the boys on breakfast. Scott, obviously a club close to your heart.
Yeah.
You've been down there this week. You spent your birthday.
I did.
Down at the Valley. Are you confident they could have a decent season, maybe be up in the top half of the table?
No, I'm not sure about the top half of the table, but I think the main thing for Charlton should be, after years, and they were tough years in League One, and actually sometimes flirting with relegation in League One as well. So first of all, I've got to say, great job from Nathan Jones coming in, steadying the ship, making sure they didn't get relegated, for which they'd never been in the fourth tier of English football before. And then last season, the second half of last season was nothing short of sensational. What he built that on was a very solid defence. And once they went a goal ahead, it was almost game over. And the final itself was pretty much like that. But they brought in Charlie Kelman, a lot of money, but he scored a lot of goals last season on loan from QPR at Leyton Orient. Harvey Nibbs has come in, Rob Apter's come in, so there's goals there going forward. Amari Bell and Reece Burke are two players, and Thomas Kaminski in goal as well. Good players. I'm slightly concerned about their fitness issues, but I think if they can keep them fit, I think they're fantastic signings. I really do. And Kaminski, he must be having nightmares almost about being a goalkeeper at the moment, the last couple of seasons he's had. Yeah. But I do like him. I think he's a very good goalkeeper. And I think a switch to Charlton, where there's a real good feel-good factor now there, Crookie. And it's a wonderful club. It was the first club that I played for. And it's been in the doldrums for many, many years. And it's had some should we say, some dodgy owners. They've got a good consortium there now who are willing to take the club forward. And what I would say, in answer to your question, I think if they're anywhere near mid-table finishing, then great. But if they can 1 or 2 seasons in the Championship, then they can start trying to go for a top 6.
I mentioned Coventry there. They're live on talkSPORT 2 on Saturday. They take on Hull, who have been subject to a EFL transfer embargo. I know they're hoping to get that reduced or maybe even lifted. But in terms of Coventry, went so close last season under Frank Lampard. He did such a brilliant job after replacing Mark Robbins, maybe silence some of his critics, me included. Would you expect...
Can you ever be silenced, Crookie?
Well, occasionally, not very often.
Not for long.
I'll tell you what, we'll just quickly on Coventry.
Yeah.
Do you see them as promotion candidates?
Yes, I do. I think they've got a great chance, and they should be, and I'm pretty sure Frank has come in and done a great job. They'll be aiming for top 2. Really unlucky to lose the semi-final. I thought both games they were the better side against Sunderland, but didn't get through in the end. They've got goals. Radoni's a big talent as well. They've got good midfielders. So, yeah, I like the look of Coventry. And you're right, they just need to carry on that feel-good factor, because in terms of performances, they were very, very good indeed.
On the subject of Championship managers, delighted to say Phil Parkinson, Wrexham boss, joins us now. They take on Southampton live on talkSPORT on Saturday. And Phil, whenever Wrexham are in action these days, that there's going to be a lot of interest because of the Hollywood factor. How excited are you about the new season?
Much so. First game at this level for 43 years. So, yeah, you can imagine the air of anticipation in the club and the town in general.
It's one of the biggest issues you've got, sort of dampening expectation, because a lot of outsiders are saying Wrexham, because they've got the Hollywood money, that they can challenge for promotion, they can go back to back. Obviously, you've signed some exciting players as well. Connor Cody with Premier League experience, Kiefer Moore as well.
Back to back to back.
Back to back to back,
Yeah,
sorry. But
yeah.
do you have to sort of dampen expectations a little bit, or are you happy to ride that wave?
Yeah, just ignore it, to be honest with you. Just concentrating on trying to piece the squad together, which can make us competitive in the division. And, we're still some way off that, but, we're getting there in terms of the recruitment. But equally, not just about new players, it's about the players who've been with us since the National League as well, coming up 3 divisions very quickly. And looking forward to seeing those players adapt and continue to grow with the club.
Yeah, Parky, I mean, you mentioned it, didn't you, about there's 8 new signings, I think there is, but there's 8 players that remain from the National League title, including Elliot Lee, who I think should never have been playing at that level, but had the foresight, like yourself as well, to see the project. How is it in terms of how's pre-season gone, how difficult it is for players to come in, to get what you want, players coming in when you want as well, for the start of the season? I'll be at Southampton. I think it's going to be a really exciting game, but do you feel like you're ready, or it will take a couple of weeks?
I think when you go into the summer recruitment, everyone ideally would want all the players in to go on pre-season tour, but it never works like that for a multitude of reasons. So has the pre-season gone as smoothly as we'd liked? Probably not. Will other teams in the division also have a bit of disruption, players still coming in and going? Yes. But I'm very pleased with how the lads we've bedded the lads in, and particularly this week on the training pitch it's been a very productive week for us. And like you rightly say, we've got lads who've got great stories to tell, who've been with us since day one and made huge contributions. And I'm equally as excited about seeing them play as the new players.
Just on the new signings, when it comes to Connor Cody, was it his personality and his leadership as much as his footballing ability that attracted you to that signing?
See, Connor's been a captain in the Premiership and the Championship, obviously played international football as well. And that's key for us, to bring players in who know the level, are comfortable at the level, and then it can help our other players adapt to the new division we're going into. So, yeah, all round, obviously, really good player, but great personality to have in and around the football club.
How difficult is it, Parky, to kind of... These are the players that have taken us up, but at the same time, we're now stepped up, and it's a big step up. I have to be a bit ruthless here. I'm going to bring these amount of players in to basically blend everything together. You've done it, obviously, for the last 3 seasons, but it's another level, isn't it, the Championship?
Definitely. I think it's that balance between the continuity and keeping the momentum our success has brought, but also accepting we're going into a very tough division, and we've got to keep evolving the squad. And that's just, the way it goes when you progress so quickly like we've done in the last 3 years. Some tough decisions have obviously had to be made, but everybody at the club always gets treated fairly by the owners and myself and the staff. But equally, yeah, getting the balance right between embracing the lads who've taken us so far, but also make sure we've got the Championship quality to compete at the level.
So what have Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney asked you for this season? What's the aim?
Do you know what? Even in the National League, we never spoke about, you've got to do this or got to do that. It's just working hard to recruit the right players. And I think success for us this season is, can by the end of the season, we've continued to to play in the manner and represent the town in the way we have done over the last 4 seasons. And if we do that, I'll be pleased. Let's see where that takes us. But the most important thing is we've built a good culture of honesty and hard endeavour, work, first and foremost. And I want to keep that. We want to be a difficult team to play against. We want to play with real pride as we've done, because we're representing a great football club. And, we aim to do that, and hopefully we can be successful on that mission.
Brilliant, Phil. Thanks very much for joining us. I know my kids will be cheering you on.
luck.
They love the Welcome to Wrexham documentary, and I'm sure they're not alone. There you go. Phil Parkinson, Wrexham manager. They go to Southampton live on talkSPORT on Saturday. That's it from us. Thanks to Scott Minto. We've got Hawksby and Brooker on the way next.